Chapter 1333. Boss, haven't you found a colored passage? There are only 10 years left. In the dark passageway, a green-robed man was sprinting madly. His body was not tall, but he was more vigorous than a leopard. His face was as sharp as a knife and his gaze was firm and sharp. Under the dim light, it was incomparably dazzling, comparable to the stars. There's no hurry, Xiao. This can't be rushed. The passages in Devil Mountain are like an underground maze, complex and complicated. If you're lucky, you might be able to find 2 in a year. If you're unlucky, you might not even find a colored passage in decades. But your boss's luck has always been good. Trust me. Yi Qinghan suddenly stomped on the ground and his body soared into the air. He tapped lightly on the wall of the passage and his body bent in an arc. He made a 45-degree turn in the air and turned into a passage at the fork in the road ahead. There was no path here, so he could only run randomly. There were as many forks in the road as there were hairs on a cow, so he could only try his luck. A few hours later, after traveling for millions of miles, Yi Qinghan's body suddenly stopped. His eyes were like those of a wolf that had found its prey. His body trembled in excitement as he shouted, "Xiao, come out." Swish. A shadow floated out. Its color was darker and its body was denser. From afar it looked like a real body. Xiao looked at the excited Yi Qinghan in confusion. He didn't know what was going on. He looked around curiously but didn't find anything special in the nearby passages. Just as he was about to ask Yi Qinghan, he suddenly felt a faint aura. It was a somewhat evil and cold aura. Xiao suddenly came to his senses and shouted, This is the aura of an evil demon. Boss, this is the aura of an evil demon. Let's go." Yi Qinghan nodded and shouted. Xiao immediately shouted and turned into a blue dragon running forward. The more he ran, the stronger the evil demon aura became. This evil demon aura also had a faint pressure. It was definitely not from a low-level evil demon. Is there a demon monarch nearby? If there's a demon monarch, it's very likely that the demon barracks are nearby. The more Yi Qinghan thought about it, the more excited he became. In the end, he could not wait any longer. He circulated the power of cold and frantically rushed towards the source of the demonic aura. Great Emperor! Great Emperor! While running, Yi Qinghan's spiritual sense vaguely sensed a faint voice calling out to him. This voice was incomparably familiar, causing his body to suddenly come to a halt. His divine sense immediately swept towards the source of the sound, and when he found out clearly, his whole body's hair stood on end, just like a lion whose tail had been stepped on. The killing intent in his eyes was so intense that it was almost tangible. His expression turned savage, and the power of frost began to circulate wildly. He turned into a shooting star and shot forward. At the same time he shouted, "Xiao Zhu Yi is being demonized by the Devil Monarch 1,000,000 kilometers ahead. Beat. Zhu Yi, hold on, wait for me." Zhu Yi? Xiao was startled by Yi Qinghan's sudden appearance. After a moment of shock, his killing intent soared into the sky. The entire passageway was filled with a somber killing intent. Xiao roared, it's the Devil Monarch? Kill, kill, kill." One man and one soul body rushed forward with boundless killing intent. Their speed was like lightning or a blizzard sweeping through the world. In just a few blinks of an eye, they had already rushed over. "Great Emperor! Great Emperor! Save me, save Zhu. Zhu Yi doesn't want to become a demon. Zhu Yi is so scared." At the other end of the passageway, Zhu Yi's clothes were whiter than snow. Her skin was as white as jade, and her graceful body was rolling on the ground. Her hair was disheveled and her beautiful face was filled with struggle. Her eyes alternated between red and black, making her look like a malicious spirit. She kept rolling on the ground, occasionally crashing into the wall. Blood flowed out of her forehead. At this moment she no longer had the grace and elegance of a high and mighty queen. Instead she looked like a lonely little woman. Her beautiful eyebrows were slightly curled, making people feel sorry for her. She held her head with her lotus-like hands. Her beautiful lips opened and closed as she shouted with all her might, "Great Emperor, Great Emperor, Great Emperor." Aomo, who had devoured more than 1,000,000 low-level demon creatures, used the secret technique of the demon realm to forcefully increase his strength to the 9th-grade supreme martial artist. How could Zhu Yi resist such a powerful strength? This was because Aomo wanted to demonize Zhu Yi and turn her into a demon realm creature. Otherwise he would have killed her long ago. Zhu Yi's rolling on the ground became weaker and weaker. The red and black color in her eyes became more and more frequent, and her cries became weaker and weaker. It was clear that she could not resist the demonic aura and completely turned into a demon. Gee, hold on. I'm coming. At this moment an earth-shattering roar came from afar. It was obvious that the roar was amplified by power, and it resounded for hundreds of thousands of miles, shaking the passageway. The echoes intertwined in the passageway, shocking everyone. Great Emperor, it's really the Great Emperor. Zhu Yi's blood-red eyes suddenly became clear, and an ecstatic expression appeared on her face. It was as if she had heard the most beautiful sound in the world. Although her body was still trembling and the muscles on her face were still twisted, a hint of determination suddenly appeared in her eyes. It's me. I'm Yi Qinghan. Hold on. Demon Monarch, all the monarchs from the demon realm who attacked the divine realm are in my hands. The lives of your 3 ancestral devils are also in my hands. Do you dare touch my people? Yi Qinghan's roar sounded again from afar. The light in Zhu Yi's eyes became even more determined, but faint black scales began to appear on her body. It was obvious that her body had been demonized, but her soul was still guarding her. A surprised voice came from Zhu Yi's body. Then a cloud of black gas suddenly emerged from her body, and the evil and cold aura in the surroundings became even stronger. Zhu Yi's clear eyes instantly turned blood red. It was obvious that Aomo had sensed that someone was coming, so he increased the strength of his attack on Zhu Yi's soul. Xiaohei, do it. Destroy this bastard. 2 specters shot out from the passageway. In midair, Yi Qinghan roared, Demon realm bastard, if you dare to demonize my people, I swear that I will make your demon realm barren, and not even the fowls and dogs will be spared. Bastard, die. Xiaohei condensed into a blue dragon and roared, enveloping the entire passageway. Wherever Xiaohei passed, the faint demonic aura and black fog in the air instantly melted like snow under the scorching sun. Hiss! A cold roar sounded. Zhu Yi's body trembled and a cloud of black fog suddenly emerged from her body. It turned into a huge black dragon and fought with Xiaohei. Hiss! As the black dragon roared, countless other roars echoed in the distance. Yi Qinghan's divine sense swept out and saw thousands of demons rushing towards them. At the front were 2 demon monarchs, and behind them were several hundred Azura kings. Xiaohei, first remove all the demonic aura from Zhu Yi's body. As Yi Qinghan saw the demon monarchs withdraw from Zhu Yi's body, he let out a great sigh of relief. He activated the Fire God battle armor and with a teleport he picked up Zhu Yi. After probing her, a dazzling light shot out from his eyes. He coldly shouted, the demon barracks must be nearby. Kill them all for me, don't leave a single one alive. Chapter 1334. There was no need for Yi Qinghan to say anything. Xiaohei was excited to see the evil devil army. His spiritual body had an inexplicable connection with the Slaughter God Saber. The Slaughter God Saber had a strong suppressive ability against the evil devil world's creatures. When Xiaohei fought against the evil devil world's creatures, it was like a wolf facing a lamb. There was no threat at all. It was a one-sided massacre. However, it was obvious that Aomo did not know about Xiaohei's abnormal ability. He transformed into a black dragon and fought against the blue dragon that Xiaohei had transformed into. He even summoned the people nearby to help him. In the end, Aomo discovered something that terrified him. This strange blue dragon actually had the same ability as the Devil Monarch. The black dragon that he had transformed into could easily send a rank 9 martial artist flying with its claws, tail flick and bite. However, it could not pose any threat to Xiaohei at all. This blue dragon could always become transparent when he attacked, dodging his attacks. Moreover, his powerful demonification ability was useless against Xiaohei. Instead, he was being demonified, corroded, and devoured by Xiaohei. When his demonic aura came into contact with Xiaohei's green gas, it was immediately corroded and devoured. His demonic aura became weaker and weaker, but the light on Xiaohei's body became brighter and brighter. If this continued, what was the point of fighting? Hiss hiss. At the other end of the passageway, countless black fog spread out like thick smoke. The black fog was mixed with creepy sounds that made one's hair stand on end. The evil devil world's reinforcements had arrived. When Xiaohei and Aomo saw this, they were instantly shocked. Aomo roared and suddenly retreated. Xiaohei immediately followed. He transformed into a gust of wind and swept toward the evil devil army in front of him. Emperor, it's really you. It's really you. After Aomo's body left Zhu Yi, Xiaohei separated a bit of energy to cleanse the demonic aura in Zhu Yi's body. Zhu Yi had already woken up. Although she was extremely weak and her face was pale, there was a sweet smile on her face. Zhu Yi, why did you enter the Devil Mountain? Didn't I tell you not to come in? You're so disobedient, just wait and see how this young master will whip you to death. Yi Qinghan looked at Zhu Yi tenderly, caressing her weak face as he scolded her. Zhu Yi didn't flirt as Yi Qinghan had imagined. Instead, her face turned pale and her eyes revealed a painful expression. She hurriedly said something, then turned her face away, not daring to look at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's heart skipped a beat. His lips trembled as he asked, "Someone else came in?" Zhu Yi struggled to free herself from Yi Qinghan's embrace. Her body swayed and she knelt down. Her weaker body trembled slightly as she said in a low voice, that the beast god insisted on coming in. I was afraid that something would happen to him, so I came in to look after him. In the end we encountered a few 9th grade supreme martial artists, the beast god, the great emperor. Zhu Yi is guilty, punish Zhu Yi. Boom. Yi Qinghan's face instantly turned as pale as snow. The cold energy in his hand surged and he smashed it against the wall beside him. The entire cave shook and dust flew everywhere. Go in and rest first. Yi Qinghan said coldly. He threw Zhu Yi into the War Emperor Palace, then activated the cold energy and flew in Xiaohei's direction. You're courting death. In the distance, Xiaohei and the evil demon army were fighting fiercely. Wrong. It was Xiaohei who was happily slaughtering. 2 lower grade 9 devil monarchs and thousands of Azura kings roared as they came to help. Who knew that their ancestor devil, their boss Aomo, would take advantage of the chaos to retreat. Moreover, they were the first to bear the brunt of the attack and were immediately enveloped by the gust of wind that Xiaohei had turned into. The 2 9th grade demons immediately turned into black dragons and fought in the air. However, the gust of wind that Xiaohei had turned into was not affected by their attacks at all. The more they struggled, the happier Xiaohei swallowed. As for the Azuras, they were instantly turned into dust and swallowed by Xiaohei. The white badges on the ground fell like snowflakes, covering the black stones on the ground. It was as if a heavy snowstorm had fallen. Swish. Yi Qinghan ignored these low-level demons. He turned into a red blur and rapidly rampaged through the evil demon army. With the protection of the fire god battle armor, the demonic aura could not harm him at all. He waved his hands and his killing intent was awe-inspiring. A giant palm that emitted a horrifying aura shot out and smashed toward a mass of black fog that was quietly retreating in front of him. The moment the giant palm condensed, the remaining Azura kings and the 2 9th grade demons felt a tremendous pressure suddenly appear, suppressing all the creatures in the evil demon world to the point that they did not dare to move. It was as if the sky had collapsed at this moment. In the eyes of all the creatures in the evil demon world, the nearby passage had disappeared. The gust of wind that Xiaohei had turned into had also disappeared. Everything around them had disappeared. The only thing left between heaven and earth was a giant green palm. Divine Emperor Supreme, the attack of this divine world martial artist is actually so tyrannical and powerful. Is this still an attack that a martial artist can make? Aomo's rapidly escaping body stopped. He felt as if his body had been enveloped by this giant palm. He could not even move and he was so scared that his soul left his body. His 9th grade supremacy ability was originally forcibly increased, and he was slightly weaker than an ordinary 9th grade supremacy. What could he do now? He could only watch as the giant palm whistled toward him. He felt as if the sky had suddenly collapsed and was pressing down on him. This kind of pressure and power could not be resisted. My life is over, the holy world is over. Aomo cried out in despair. It was true that a devil monarch had a nearly immortal ability, but beneath this absolute strength, his main body was annihilated. Even a divine Emperor Supreme wouldn't be able to save him. Bang! A destructive strength broke through the air and came crashing down. The black fog that Aomo had turned into melted away like snow beneath this giant palm, revealing his main body. His main body was instantly sent flying backwards by the giant palm. His body was severely wounded but he didn't die. Xiaohei, swallow him. Yi Qinghan had the ability to completely destroy this abyssal supreme, but he wasn't stupid enough to do so. Xiaohei needed a massive amount of energy to evolve. Xiaohei didn't care about the remaining Azura King and the 2 ninth-grade demons. This abyssal supreme had been severely wounded and was the easiest to swallow. He immediately flew over and covered Ayu. My lord, please spare me. Aomo's body constantly struggled, trying to break free from Xiaohei's devouring. But no matter how much he struggled, Xiaohei followed him like a shadow. Aomo's body became weaker and weaker, and the strength of his struggles also became weaker. The 2 devil monarchs and the countless Azura kings trembled in fear. Their souls left their bodies wanting to escape in another direction. Humph! Yi Qinghan coldly snorted. The fire god's heart flashed and he directly teleported, appearing in front of the devil monarchs and Azura kings. He condensed another giant palm. Immediately, a world-destroying pressure enveloped all the demons. All the demons were immediately pressed to the ground, unable to move even half a step. Their bodies trembled in fear. Xiaohei, hurry up, we still need to go to the abyssal camp. I've already found the entrance to the demon mountain. Yi Qinghan's face was filled with killing intent. The beast god seemed to have perished. The beast god was the only person that made him feel close to the beast god race. Lord Devour's death for love had already made him extremely sad. At this moment his heart was dripping blood. Only by venting all his anger on the devil army would he feel better. Young man, if you still dare to casually release this strange attack in the planar battlefield, once Pan Xing discovers it, you will die without a doubt. Your divine world will also be destroyed immediately. Just as Yi Qinghan was immersed in the bad news of the beast god, a pleasant female voice suddenly rang in his ears. What was extremely strange was that the scene in front of Yi Qinghan suddenly changed. In a trance he saw a towering cylindrical mountain peak. A purple-clothed woman was calmly looking at him. Chapter 1335. Who is it? Yi Qinghan cried out in alarm. His body trembled and the huge palm in front of him collapsed. The blurry image in front of him was also shattered. All he could see were countless frightened, ugly faces of demons. Who is it? Who's talking? Yi Qinghan looked around in fear. He quickly released his divine sense to search around. However, he didn't notice that every hair on his body was standing on end. This time it wasn't because of excitement but because of fear. Boss, what's wrong with you? Xiaohei had already swallowed the heavily injured devil sovereign. He flew over and saw the panic-stricken Yi Qinghan. He stopped swallowing the other demons and asked nervously. Yi Qinghan shook his head and pretended to be calm. He waved his hand and signaled Xiaohei to swallow the other demons first. His mind worked quickly and he began to think about the strange thing that happened just now. Young man, if you dare to release your strange attack in the planar battlefield once Pan Xing finds out, you will die for sure. Your divine realm will be destroyed immediately. Young man. Strange attack? Pan Xing? Death for sure? Mountain? Yi Qinghan's mind flashed like electric sparks. He quickly analyzed the meaning of this sentence. She could use her divine sense to search him without him knowing and transmit her voice to him. Moreover, she could condense a blurry image in front of him. With such a divine ability, Yi Qinghan believed that no one in this world could do it except for divine emperors and supremes. The mountain in the image was so tall. In the planar battlefield there was a high chance that Pan Shan was the one with such a high mountain. Therefore there was a 90% chance that this woman was a divine emperor and supremes. And if this woman was a divine emperor and supremes, her words weren't baseless. Strange attack. Could it be that this woman found out about my cold power? Then did she find out about my abnormal soul space? She didn't kill me but warned me? She told me not to release the attack and said that if Pan Xing found out he would kill me immediately. Destroy the divine realm? Pan Xing, surnamed Pan? Panjia? Pan Shan? Pan Xing could kill me? Destroy the divine realm? Is Pan Xing also a divine emperor? And the old man in sackcloth, are there 3 divine emperors? Yi Qinghan was confused. However, after Little Black swallowed all the demons, Yi Qinghan quickly sorted out his thoughts and confirmed a few points. But she didn't mean him any harm and seemed to be helping him. But he didn't have any malice towards him. Instead, he seemed to be helping him cover up. Secondly, Pan Xing was most likely a divine emperor supreme martial artist. With the strength of this woman, she had no motive to lie to him. Then if Pan Xing discovered his strange ability, it was very likely that he would do as the woman said and destroy him and the entire god realm. Third, there was more than one. The old man in sackcloth was very likely to be a divine emperor. After clarifying these points, Yi Qinghan became even more confused. He thought of the murderous aura that swept past him not long ago. It was very likely that it was emitted by Pan Xing. The old man in sackcloth did not know if he was good or bad, but the woman in purple seemed to love him. That Pan Xing, on the other hand, was filled with killing intent. Once he found out about my strange ability, he would kill me, no matter what. Yi Qinghan immediately made a decision. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not make a move in the parallel plane battlefield. Xiao He would also try not to make a move. He could not gamble and could not afford to lose. And I will immediately find the evil demon's camp. 5 million points should be enough. I will immediately go into seclusion and announce my withdrawal from the final battle. Yi Qinghan thought to himself. When he saw Xiao He flying over, he shouted at Xiao He, "Enter the slaughter god blade. I will collect the emblems first. When we find the evil demon's camp, you will immediately kill them all." Although Xiao He did not know what happened to Yi Qinghan, when he saw Yi Qinghan's solemn expression, he did not say anything and immediately flew into the slaughter god blade. Yi Qinghan silently collected the emblems. 2 devil monarchs, hundreds of Azura kings, and thousands of Azuras added up to tens of thousands of points. However, what puzzled Yi Qinghan was that the evil demon's emblem was also black and not gold. He did not know that the evil demon's emblem was forcefully raised. As he ran, Yi Qinghan did not dare to use the power of cold anymore. He headed straight for the colored passageway. As expected, 1 hour later, Yi Qinghan saw that the passageway was getting wider and there was a faint light in front of him. The evil and cold demonic aura was getting thicker. I found the evil demon's camp. Xiao He, do it. Devour with all your strength. Don't let a single demon escape. I want all the creatures from the evil demon realm to be unable to return to the planar battlefield. Yi Qinghan stood at the entrance of the Devil Mountain. Dark clouds covered the sky and black fog rolled about. From time to time, bone-chilling howls could be heard. The open space in front of the passageway was like an Azura hell. Demons danced about chaotically. It was extremely horrifying. Waha, so many demonic creatures. It looks like I, Lord Xiao He, will have no choice but to evolve this time. Xiao He threw his head back and laughed. He turned into a blue dragon and carried a biting cold killing intent as he whizzed forward. The black fog tumbled about. The giant blue dragon shuttled in and out of the black fog. The roars of demons could be heard everywhere. Countless demonic powerhouses turned into black dragons and tangled with the blue dragon in the black fog. Waves of cold aura spread through the air. The entire square outside the Devil Mountain was in chaos. The scene was so shocking that it could scare a cow to death. 1,500,000 points are at my fingertips. Looking at the white badges falling down like snowflakes, Yi Qinghan's heart finally relaxed a little. Then he thought of the voice transmission just now and his heart became even heavier. A divine emperor supreme. This was an existence that was like a coiling mountain, pressuring him to the point of suffocation. But after comprehending the Tao of unyielding, Yi Qinghan had an urge to fight a divine emperor supreme. Luckily, he was very clear that if he provoked them now, he would be courting death. He would also drag everyone in the divine world down with him. Wait until my cold domain is complete. This young master will not hesitate to fight you all. Yi Qinghan looked up at the sky, his eyes filled with arrogance. The strange changes in his soul space had given him the confidence to be above others. He had a feeling that as long as the cold domain was complete, he would not fear anyone. Woo woo, the strange cries ahead pulled Yi Qinghan's thoughts back. The battle ahead had come to an end. Xiao He was like an invincible divine emperor against the demon army, easily sweeping through them. Especially the low-level demons, they were swallowed in a single move. The giant blue dragon in the sky grew stronger and stronger. The chilling blue light in the black fog was like a dazzling demonic sun. Wherever it swept through, the demons were killed and swallowed and the badges fell like snowflakes. The demonic creatures finally began to panic and began to flee in all directions. Several devil monarchs were swallowed and nearly 1 million low-level demons were killed. The white and blue badges on the ground fell in pieces. Even the most unintelligent Shura knew that this blue dragon was invincible, An invincible existence. Zhu Yi, come out and help me collect points. Yi Qinghan sent a voice transmission, then with a long whistle he rushed forward. Zhu Yi's body quietly appeared. Looking at the scene of demons dancing in front of her, she was startled. Then seeing the invincible blue dragon in the sky and the badges all over the ground, she was instantly overjoyed. Her charming body turned into a light feather, flying towards the battlefield with Yi Qinghan. Chapter 1336. So many badges. Heavens! There should be millions of points here, right? The beast deity was worried that the great emperor would not have enough points. Zhu Yi looked at the white badges on the ground and thought of the beast deity's skinny face. She could not help but feel sad. She looked up at Yi Qinghan, who was silently collecting badges. Zhu Yi did not dare to show it, afraid that it would cause Yi Qinghan's sorrow. She quickly lowered her head and collected all the badges. Still want to run? Boss, suppress them. Wait until I finish devouring these evil monarchs, then I'll take care of those little bastards. In midair, Xianxia was entangled with a few black dragons. 2/3 of the dozen evil monarchs had been devoured by him. The fiend realm really did not have any powerhouses. The strongest evil monarchs present were upper rank 9. How could they be a match for Xianxia? Yi Qinghan swept his gaze at the low-level evil demons that were fleeing in all directions. They had been far away from the start and had wanted to join the battle in a hurry. However, they realized that they had been swept away by Xianxia. They were scared out of their wits and immediately turned to flee. Apart from the demon mountain, countless black fog shot out from the other 3 directions like hundreds of thousands of sharp swords. Yi Qinghan estimated that at least 700,000 to 800,000 low-level evil demons had escaped. These low-level evil demons were weak. If Yi Qinghan could condense the power of cold, he could easily suppress them and immobilize them. However, Yi Qinghan did not dare to make a move. He could only smile bitterly and let these low-level evil demons escape. Boss, why aren't you making a move? Xianxia saw Yi Qinghan shaking his head slightly and continued to collect points. He called out urgently a few times. The green light he had turned into became even brighter, and he began to devour crazily. He had long felt that the next evolution was coming. It would be a great pity if they ran away with so much energy. Yi Qinghan thought for a while and said to Zhu Yi, suppress those evil demons over there. Zhu Lianhua's feet lightly tapped the ground, and she turned into a cloud of flying cotton, flying toward the abyss devils that were fleeing the most. In the blink of an eye, he stood above them and the power of space revolved, enveloping more than 100,000 low-level demons. The battle ended in less than an hour. Yi Qinghan was still collecting badges with Zhu Yi. This time all the strong members of the Devil Legion were killed. At least 2/3 of the low-level devils were devoured. The rest of the devils turned into birds and beasts and fled in all directions, disappearing into the vast mountains. After Xianxia devoured all the demons that Zhu Yi had suppressed, the rest of the demons hadn't run far, so he couldn't catch up to them at all. However, he did not continue to chase after Yi Qinghan. Instead, he happily flew towards Yi Qinghan. Without saying a single word, he immediately entered the slaughter god blade and fell into a deep sleep. He transformed into the soul-devouring beast's original body, which was glowing with green light. It was obvious that he was going to evolve again. This time Xianxia devoured a grade 9 supreme, 4 grade 9 upper and more than 10 grade 9 lower. There were more than 100,000 Azura kings and more than 2 million Azuras. Such a huge amount of energy was enough for him to evolve perfectly, even though he already felt like he was about to evolve. After a while, Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi finally finished collecting all the badges. Yi Qinghan entered the entrance of the Devil Mountain and immediately brought Zhu Yi into the War Emperor Palace. This was the main camp of the Devil Legion. Since the evil demons had escaped, it was almost impossible for outsiders to come here. It was also impossible for them to coincidentally shake the space here. It was very safe. Great Emperor, these are the points that the beast god and I collected, but they are obviously useless. After entering, Zhu Yi passed a spatial ring to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan kept the badges silently. Then he used his divine sense to lock onto the slaughter god blade and carefully checked it twice. After confirming that Xianxia was in good condition and had already evolved, he looked at Zhu Yi calmly. He then looked at Zhu Yi and said, Zhu Yi, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. It's all my fault. Tell me the details. Beast God, after you entered the Devil Mountain for a few years after thinking about it, he felt uneasy for you to shoulder such a heavy burden alone. You also know how much he cares about you. Hence he insisted on letting everyone in. Even if we had to sacrifice everyone, as long as you were fine and the Divine Realm won, it would be fine. Gong Tian and the rest followed your orders and refused to come in. Actually, we were also very hesitant. However, the Beast God stubbornly wanted to come in, so I could only accompany him. We met a few 9th grade Beastmen supreme martial artists. I heard an explosion and coincidentally entered the teleportation formation and was teleported here. Zhu Yi's face was gloomy as she explained the situation to Yi Qinghan in detail. Yi Qinghan's heart was also in his throat, but his face turned ashen. After remaining silent for a long time, he gritted his teeth and said, Beastmen dimension, if you dare to kill our ancestor, as long as I, Yi Qinghan, am not dead, there will be a day when I will uproot your dimension. Zhu Yi looked at the furious Yi Qinghan. She could feel his endless murderous aura and his suppressed emotions. Her legs softened, kneeling in front of Yi Qinghan, hugging Yi Qinghan's leg. She faced Yi Qinghan, her face full of self-blame and guilt. Her eyes sparkled as she gazed at Yi Qinghan. Great Emperor, you can scold me. Hit me. Zhu Yi is guilty. Don't do this. If you scold me or hit me, I will feel better. Yi Qinghan's emotions were really suppressed. After so many years of continuous battles, he hadn't had a moment of peace. Lord Devour had died for love, and now the Beast God was most likely dead. The God Emperor was like a mountain pressing on him. The lives and deaths of billions of people in the divine world were like a sharp sword hanging over his head, making it hard for him to breathe. He was the great Emperor of the divine world, the #1 genius of billions of years in the divine world. He had so many halos and honors, but no one knew how bitter his heart was. Looking at Zhu Yi kneeling on the ground, looking at her tear-stained face, he had an impulse to cry. However, he knew that a man could only bleed and not shed tears. He could only stand and die. He couldn't kneel and live. Thus he didn't shed a tear or say anything. He just stooped, reaching out one hand to gently wipe the tears from the corners of Zhu Yi's eyes. Then he hugged her tightly. Zhu Yi was also depressed. She was the king of the Fire God tribe, but at this moment she had to disobey the order of the God Emperor. She had to risk the extinction of the Fire God tribe to enter the battlefield quietly. When the Beast God was in danger and she was about to be demonized by the Devil Monarch, Yi Qinghan had descended from the sky to save her. However, he didn't blame her. Quite the contrary, he had made her feel guilty and blamed herself. Two depressed people, two strange emotions, two people who could be smashed to pieces at any time tightly hugged each other. They used their bodies to give each other warmth, giving each other a moment of peace. Great Emperor. Great Emperor. Crazily want Zhu Yi wants your love, Zhu Yi wants you. All of a sudden, Zhu Yi began to kiss Yi Qinghan madly. Her hands tore at Yi Qinghan's robes. Her fiery lips fell on Yi Qinghan's face, mouth, neck and chest like raindrops. Yi Qinghan stared blankly for a moment. Looking at Zhu Yi, who was like a crazy kitten, the pressure in his heart transformed into a blazing evil fire. He roared and started to tear Zhu Yi's clothes frantically. The two of them became naked in an instant. The two of them intertwined with each other and finally combined into one. The temperature in the room also started to rise and it started to burn crazily. Chapter 1337. The wind stopped and the rain dispersed. The clouds returned and the moon returned. The two of them hugged each other tightly and fell into a deep sleep. They did not care about anything, did not think about anything, just wanted to enjoy this moment of peace. Zhu Yi's face was filled with a sweet smile. At this moment she was no longer a high and mighty queen, but just a little woman to Yi Qinghan. Zhu Yi, what are the rules of the final battle? How are we going to withdraw from the final battle? One day later, both Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi woke up. Xiao He was still evolving and would probably not wake up for a while. Yi Qinghan simply carried Zhu Yi on the bed and asked her. Half of Zhu Yi's body was stuck to Yi Qinghan. Her fair skin was covered with bruises, especially her jade-like neck, which was filled with shocking kiss marks. On her plump butt there were also countless clear palm prints. Yi Qinghan was not much better. His body was covered with Zhu Yi's scratches and kiss marks. The two of them had been too wild last night, so much so that Zhu Yi was like a dead fish now, not wanting to move even half a finger. Fortunately, after venting out their emotions, the two of them had returned to normal. Zhu Yi lazily leaned against Yi Qinghan, then said, "The terrain of the planar battlefield is very simple. The demon mountains form a circle, and within it is the battlefield for the final battle. The center of the battlefield is Mount Pan. After a few years, the final battle will begin. Everyone will be teleported into the battlefield. Of course, people from different dimensions will be teleported together, forming a square formation. The terrain of the dimensional battlefield is even more strange and complicated. There are teleportation restrictions everywhere. If you are not careful, you will be teleported. Of course, you will only be teleported inside the battlefield, not outside of the demon mountains. Once you enter the battlefield, you can start killing. The restrictions in the sky are even stronger and denser. There will also be fog inside, and your divine senses can only reach 1,000 meters. Once the final battle begins, the battlefield will be like hell. Even a 9th-grade supreme martial artist will be ambushed and killed by enemies that appear from all directions if you are not careful. There are countless god-trapping restrictions there. Even a 9th-grade supreme martial artist can be trapped. If you are not careful and get trapped, you will only become a live target waiting for death. 1 month after the start of the final battle, you can surrender or withdraw from the final battle. The terrain of each plane was fixed. The immortal world was a small mountain. So after we enter, as long as we don't run around and guard the place for a month, we can immediately announce our withdrawal from the final battle. At that time, we'll be teleported to the peak of Mount Pan. We'll hand over our emblems and will be considered the victorious plane. Although Zhu Yi had never participated in a planar war, the Fire God clan was the strongest clan in the divine world. They had participated in countless planar wars, and the clan had detailed records of all kinds of planar wars. 1 month. How could he only withdraw after a month? What kind of *T rule is that? After Yi Qinghan heard this, his body suddenly trembled and his face turned pale. Zhu Yi flipped over and pressed herself on top of Yi Qinghan. Her 2 round snow-white hemispheres were pressed into 2 meat pancakes. Her brows slightly furrowed as she asked in puzzlement, "What's wrong, Great Emperor? The planar wars had always been like this. Are you worried that a legion from another plane will attack us?" You don't have to worry. Under normal circumstances, if we don't go out, it means that we don't want to participate in the final battle. The experts from the other planes will not attack us. Moreover, our terrain is a high mountain. When the time comes, we can let the Wind Moon Monarch set up some restrictions. With your strength, together with Gong Tian and us, even if the enemy attacks, it will be enough to deter them. They will naturally retreat. I hope so. Yi Qinghan listened and felt a little more at ease. However, his mouth revealed a trace of bitterness. The purple-robed lady forbade him from releasing any attacks in the planar battlefield. Originally, Yi Qinghan had decided not to make a move at the foot of Mount Pan. Now he didn't dare to make a move. At the foot of Mount Pan, during the final battle, the God Emperor Supremes would definitely be watching. Once he made a move, the special pressure of the cold energy would definitely attract the attention of the God Emperor Supremes. With the strength of the purple-robed lady, she wouldn't tease him for no reason. Moreover, she probably didn't have any balls. Therefore, Yi Qinghan reckoned that once he made a move, the God Emperor Supremes called Pan Xing would immediately blast the people of the deity realm into smithereens. Xiao He just happened to evolve during this period of time. I don't know if he can wake up before the final battle. Since the purple-robed lady can detect me, she can definitely detect Xiao He as well. This means that Xiao He's existence is normal. Even if he makes a move, that Pan Xing person won't care. Although Xiao He's refining ability has increased a lot, can he refine so much energy in 10 years? Yi Qinghan secretly prayed. He prayed that they wouldn't meet a strong enemy in the final battle. He prayed that Xiao He would finish evolving soon. Otherwise, with Gong Tian alone, if the deity realm army met a strong enemy, it was very likely that they would be completely annihilated. There are still 10 years left. I don't know if the Great Emperor and Beast God Zhui are doing well. God Emperor Supremes, please bless them and let them get through these 10 years safely. I also hope that the Great Emperor can obtain enough points. In the camp of the deity realm army, the Ice Queen stood alone outside the passage of Demon Mountain. She had turned into a beautiful ice sculpture and stared at the passage of Demon Mountain. She had been standing here for several years. She was the queen of the ice snow race. The ice snow race had a cold temperament. They also cultivated the law of ice. Their race was cold all year round. They didn't like to communicate with outsiders and weren't good at expressing their inner feelings. However, after following Yi Qinghan for so many years, she was already used to following him. She didn't know if it was because of Yi Qinghan's strength or because of Yi Qinghan's charm, but she had an inexplicable sense of attachment to Yi Qinghan. Your Majesty, you have been standing here for several years. Are you tired? Don't worry, Emperor Han Yi is so strong and will definitely obtain enough points. Come, enter my palace to drink some tea. I have top-quality ecstasy tea there. A person suddenly appeared beside the Ice Queen. This person looked like a young man. He looked really handsome and his actions were really elegant. He had a smile on his face that was really mesmerizing. However, the glow in his eyes when he looked at the Ice Queen made one feel disgusted. No need, King Gongwei, please go back. The Ice Queen acted like she didn't hear it. After a long while, she glanced coldly at the young man and said calmly. She continued to look at the passage of Demon Mountain and turned into an ice sculpture. Gongwei was a grade 9 king from the water god race. He was one of the generals that came with Gong Tian and was weaker than him. He always had a good impression of the Ice Queen, or rather he had a strong desire to possess her. The Ice Queen had a beautiful face and strong strength. Especially her cold body. If he hugged her and played with her, it would definitely be a different feeling. Yi Qinghan and beast god Zhu Yi weren't here, so Gongwei started to chat with the Ice Queen to try and conquer this ice beauty. The Ice Queen's calm gaze, especially the disdain in her eyes and her stubborn attitude, made Gongwei a little embarrassed and angry. He said with a slightly heavier tone, Your Majesty, I don't want to scold you, but why don't you take care of your body? The decisive battle is about to begin. You must conserve your strength and build up your strength in order to guard against any sudden changes. If Emperor Han Yi, the beast god, and Zhu Yi all die in the Devil Mountain, the god realm can only rely on our clan and your Majesty. The Ice Queen's reply was really quick. Before Gongwei even finished, killing intent surged from her body. Her aura soared and the surrounding temperature dropped. She stared at Gongwei coldly and said word by word, Emperor won't die. Beast God and Zhu Yi won't die either. If you dare to say such words again, I won't be polite, scram. Chapter 1338. Scoff. You don't know what's good for you. Gongwei's face instantly turned green. He stared in rage and the aura around his body rose up. There were 7 experts in the God World camp and 5 of them were from the Water God race. This Ice Queen actually dared to tell him to scram in front of so many people? He looked at the weird gazes from the numerous low-grade martial artists around. His face was filled with rage and embarrassment. He pointed at the Ice Queen and scolded, I am reminding you that you have participated in the planar war and know how dangerous Demon Mountain is. What if the Emperor and the others die and God World doesn't rely on our race? It will definitely be wiped out. You still dare to treat me like that, you smelly Xiao. Ice Queen didn't say another word. A cold intent rumbled from her body and snow fell from the sky. Numerous ice shards formed and shot towards Gongwei. Hong. Gongwei didn't expect Ice Queen to really dare to attack. When he reacted, numerous ice shards shot over. His body flew backward and his body was smashed into a bloody mess. However, it was obvious that Ice Queen held back. If not, he would definitely die from such a close distance. Xiao. Several people flew out from the camp. Gong Tian and the others were shocked by Ice Queen's attack. Wind Moon sovereigns were also shocked and they immediately flew behind Ice Queen. Ice Queen, what is the meaning of this? Gong Tian looked at Gongwei who was in a bloody mess and his face turned green. The other 3 grade 9 martial artists' faces were dark and sunken. Space power gathered and killing intent surged around. Nothing. This person deserves a beating, scoff. If we weren't in the planar battlefield, he would have died. Ice Queen didn't fear anything. She looked coldly at Gong Tian and didn't even bother to explain. Scoff. You are asking to die. Emperor, kill this bee asterisk teeth. The 3 grade 9 water god lords were furious. They gathered their space power and waited for Gong Tian to give the order to attack. The atmosphere became tense and a huge battle was about to break out. Scoff, you want to attack? Come at me and see if I will even blink. Ice Queen scoffed coldly. Space power gathered on her body and snowflakes fell, causing the space around to freeze. Scoff, you think I don't dare? I can crush you like an ant. Gong Tian was infuriated by Ice Queen's attitude. A blood-red spear appeared in his hand. instantly killing intent covered Ice Queen. Although Wind Moon Sovereign didn't know why Ice Queen would attack, he believed in her character. He gritted his teeth and stepped forwards. He stared furiously. Gongan, if you dare to touch the queen, then kill me too. Let's see how you will die when the emperor returns. Your clan will be exterminated. Xiu. From the rear of the main camp, countless warriors suddenly shot out. They were all 5th, 6th and 7th grade war gods. They were the experts of Yi Qinghan's Yi family army. Although they didn't know what had happened, they knew that Yi Qinghan and Ice Queen had a good relationship. As for the water god race, they didn't give the God World warriors a good impression. So the higher-ups of the Yi family army, the commanders and captains, braved the solemn atmosphere and charged forwards. They all stood behind Ice Queen and didn't say a single word. They just stood there silently and stared furiously at Gong Tian and the others. Xiu. The moment the Yi family army commanders and captains moved, the entire Yi family army was alerted. Like a swarm of locusts, they surrounded the battlefield. They didn't say a single word, but the killing intent on their bodies gathered. It was actually able to go up against Gong Tian's killing intent. Ice Queen glanced coldly and laughed coldly. She looked at Gong Tian, whose face turned dark and sunken. Gong Tian, your subordinate actually cursed the emperor to die. I didn't kill him today, and that is already giving you face. If you want to take revenge for your subordinate, then come at me. The moment Ice Queen said this, the expressions of the hundreds of thousands of Yi family army changed. Killing intent surged into the sky, like a rainbow piercing through the sun. Hundreds of thousands of cold gazes shot towards Gong Tian on the ground. The coldness in their eyes could freeze Gong Tian into ice. If you want to kill the queen, you have to step over our corpses. Water god race trash, you actually dare to curse the emperor? I will rip all of you apart. Brothers, kill them. Anyone who curses the emperor will be killed. Chop these bastards. Ice Queen's casual words were like an explosion. Numerous Yi family army soldiers shot out, the blades in their hands rumbled. Tens of thousands of them didn't say a word and charged towards Gong Tian and the others. Stop. Ice Queen didn't expect that Yi Qinghan would actually have such influence in the Yi family army. She wanted to stir up their will to fight the enemy together, but who knew that they would be so rash to actually start killing right away. While they were panicking, the sky full of snow swept down. The huge space power suppressed their attacks. Gong Tian and the others' faces were ashen white, especially Gong Tian. He knew that Yi Qinghan didn't die, otherwise he would have died long ago. Originally, he didn't plan to attack and just wanted to regain some face. Now that Yi Qinghan's subordinates were so rash, once a chaotic battle broke out, he wouldn't be able to suppress them. If his subordinates killed all of Yi Qinghan's subordinates, once Yi Qinghan returned with Yi Qinghan's personality, the entire water god race would be wiped out. Thus, he hurriedly released his spatial energy to suppress his subordinates and shouted, "Stop!" Ice Queen's face flushed red. She flew into the air and cupped her fists towards them. Yi family army, listen to my orders, all of you return. The emperor hates internal conflicts. If you are so rash when he returns, he will be sad. Don't worry, Gong Tian and the others won't fight amongst themselves. Am I right? Of course not. They won't. Gong Tian's expression became really awkward under everyone's gazes. He could only grit his teeth and agree. Looking at the countless vicious gazes around him, his heart was incomparably furious and jealous. Yi Qinghan actually had such a great influence in the divine realm, and was so loved and respected by the martial artists of the divine realm. Perhaps even he himself did not have such a great rallying power in the Water God clan. Yi family army, return. The queen is right, we can bleed for the emperor, but we can't make him sad. Return. Whoever dares to make the emperor sad, I will chop him up. Listen to the queen and return. If they dare to attack, we will rip them apart. The Yi family army came really quickly and left really quickly. After the few commanders hollered, hundreds of thousands of them surged back like a flood and returned to their camps. Let's go. Gong Tian scoffed coldly, bringing Gong Wei and the others into his space god artifact. Ice Queen flew down but didn't say anything. She continued to stare stubbornly at the Demon Mountain tunnel and turned into an ice sculpture. Emperor, we can't take this lying down. If this spreads back to God world, our water god race will lose all our face. Our ancestors will be ashamed. Within Gong Tian's space god artifact, a grade 9 king scolded the moment he entered. The others looked at Gong Tian with a burning gaze like they were waiting for his orders. Gong Tian scolded, "Idiot, do you want me to die? Do you want the entire water god race to be wiped out? Yi Qinghan isn't dead. If we can't kill all of them and one escapes, or if they have a special method to send messages, the entire water god race will be wiped out by Yi Qinghan. Then what should we do?" Gong Wei's injuries were much better. He struggled to stand up and said viciously, "There's no rush." A sliver of viciousness flashed through Gong Tian's eyes as he hatefully said, "The great battle is about to begin. If the situation in the god realm is dire, I'll threaten Yi Qinghan and make him return my soul fire. At that time we'll kill him. Since we've already stepped into the planar battlefield, if we don't die this time, we'll be able to kill Yi Qinghan. When we return, we'll unify the immortal world and restore the ancient glory of our water god clan. Yi Qinghan, that bastard, as long as I get the chance, I'll definitely tear him to pieces and toy with his women to death." Chapter 1339. Foxy, that old fellow isn't dead, right? In the most luxurious palace in the beastman's camp, the snake-headed beastman stared coldly at the fox-headed lady beside him with his triangular, blood-red eyes. The fox-headed lady revealed a charming expression on her furry face. She looked around proudly and smiled charmingly. "He's not dead. I drugged him and made him dizzy. Even if he wanted to die, he couldn't. How could a mere 9th grade cultivator resist my Foxy's bewitchment?" The 9th grade supreme cultivators felt their hearts tighten under Foxy's gaze. Clearly, they had suffered a lot from Foxy's bewitchment. The snake-headed beastman was not afraid at all. He said coldly, "There are still 3 years before the final battle. Go and gather all the commanders. We need to make arrangements. When the time comes, we will break through the divine realm's stronghold and kill everyone there. Then we will obtain the 3 paragon spiritual treasures." A burly beastman with a Qilin head stood up and dashed out of the palace. Soon he returned with more than 100 beastmen with powerful auras. They were all 9th grade experts, and more than 20 of them were even at the upper 9th grade. The beastmen dimension was indeed very powerful. "Greetings, your majesty. Greetings, commanders." The palace was very spacious. There was plenty of room for more than 100 people to enter. All of them prostrated on the ground and bowed. After the snake-headed beastman made a nasal sound, they split into 2 groups and stood respectfully. The snake-headed beastman's triangular, blood-red eyes swept across the palace. Then he said coldly, "The final battle is about to begin. This time the goal of our great beastman dimension is not to take first place, but to destroy a dimension. The divine realm dimension." Whoosh. As soon as the snake-headed beastman finished speaking, more than 100 beastman commanders burst into an uproar. They looked at each other and started discussing. The deity world was simply too famous in the Pan realm. In ancient times, the deity world had always won the planar wars, slaughtering a large number of experts from other planes and conquering a quarter of the major planes in the Pan realm. At that time, no plane had been able to compete with the deity world. In the planar battlefield, if one did not encounter the divine realm army, they would either die or be severely injured. The ancient era's 10 clans were all favored by the heavens. All of them possessed special skills. When they joined hands, they were simply unstoppable. On top of that, the immortal world had obtained the first place in the rankings many times and obtained a large number of supreme spiritual treasures. Their offensive power was also ridiculously strong, and no other plane dared to compete with them. The only thing that puzzled the commanders was that the divine world plane had already weakened. Moreover, although they had some enmity with the Beastmen plane in the past, they wouldn't have given up on first place just to annihilate the Divine World Legion, right? Silence. Foxy suddenly spoke. Her soft voice filled the air and suddenly the hall was silent. She smiled charmingly at the snake-headed half-beastman and said, "There are 10 commander-level powerhouses from the Divine World this time. 2 of them are senior commander-level powerhouses, but they have 3 Paragon Spirit treasures. Although the glory of being the top scorer was incomparably important, obtaining these 3 supreme spiritual treasures was even more important. Furthermore, because we were the ones who destroyed the Celestial Realm's army, we will be the first to attack the Celestial Realm. In ancient times, the Celestial Realm obtained many treasures. Think about it. As long as we destroy the Celestial Realm, those countless treasures will be ours." That's right, that's right. Lady Foxy is wise and mighty. Why didn't we think of that? Destroy the celestial realm and rob them of all their treasures. I want the celestial realm's beauties. I heard that their beauties are made of water. Wah! Destroy the celestial realm. Destroy the celestial realm. Celestial realm's beauties? I heard that the celestial realm has a race called the Enchantress race. They are the most precious treasures that the heavens have bestowed upon men. I heard that their bodies can glow and that thing down there can also shine. Wah! Let's go to the celestial realm. I want the Enchantress race's beauties. The group of half-beastmen began to shout excitedly. There were also quite a few beast-like men whose faces were flushed and their bodies heated up. They rubbed their palms together as if they were about to attack the celestial realm. When Foxy saw the group of people speaking such filthy and vulgar words, her face turned cold. She angrily said, "Silence. I didn't say anything. If anyone says another word, I'll kill them without mercy." Foxy's fame spread far and wide and no one dared to speak again. When the snake-headed half-beastmen saw that the half-beastmen were excited and filled with fighting spirit, he waved his hand and the vital energy of heaven and earth above the palace began to gather together, forming a landscape painting. This landscape painting was very large and it covered the entire palace. The scenery was incredibly realistic. It looked more like a map with lush ancient trees, mountain peaks, stone forests, canyons, deserts, and all sorts of other topography. In particular, there was a cylindrical peak in the middle of the painting. It was incomparably eye-catching. Everyone look closely. This is the topography of Coiling Mountain. When the battle begins, we will be teleported to the bottom left. According to the records left behind by our ancestors, the celestial realm will be teleported to the top left. We are very far away from the celestial realm, and there are at least 13 major planes between us. What we need to do is to pierce through them within a month and reach the celestial realm's territory. Without waiting for them to surrender, we'll kill them all. The snake-headed half-beastman stood up, a large hand covered in black scales pointing at the map in the air. His triangular eyes were filled with killing intent. Your Majesty, there are 13 major planes. How can we rush over in a month? If we start a war with other planes along the way, it will definitely attract the experts of other planes. Although we won't lose, I'm afraid we won't be able to make it in a month. That's right, Your Majesty. What if the celestial realm is no longer defended? Even if we rush over, what if they go to the celestial realm to participate in the war? That's right, Your Majesty. What if the celestial realm is destroyed before we even get there? Then wouldn't we have come for nothing? Countless commanders voiced their doubts one after another, and for a moment, the hall was bustling with noise again. The half-beastmen captains twisted their fat bodies, their faces flushed red as they loudly expressed their opinions. The snake-headed half-beastman didn't need to say anything. With a cold snort, all the half-beastman captains immediately shut up and looked at him with dry eyes. There are only 2 captains in the celestial realm, so they definitely won't participate in the war. Moreover, one of their captains will enter the Demon Mountain, so I estimate that 5 million points will definitely be enough. Therefore, I predict that after the decisive battle, they will defend their stronghold and will definitely announce their withdrawal from the war in a month. As for destroying them from other planes, this is impossible. There are no powerful planes near the celestial realm's stronghold. The snake-headed half-beastman's black hand swiped across the map in the air and said faintly, "As for piercing through 13 planes in a month, I have my own definition. As long as you listen to my arrangements, I can guarantee that in less than 20 days, we will be able to reach the celestial realm's stronghold." Seeing that the snake-headed half-beastman was full of confidence, the captains immediately relaxed and shouted in unison, "Your Majesty is wise and mighty. This time you will definitely succeed. The celestial realm will not be able to escape this calamity." The snake-headed half-beastman stood with his hands behind his back, and the map in the air collapsed. His blood-red triangular eyes shone brightly as he looked at the Demon Mountain through the palace's entrance and murmured faintly, "I am determined to obtain the 3 supreme spiritual treasures. Celestial Realm's great commanders, you actually dared to kill our half-beast plane's 4 great commanders. I will definitely make you wish you were dead and your celestial realm will flow with rivers of blood." Chapter 1340. The final battle is about to begin, but Xiao He still hasn't woken up. This is really troublesome. I can only pray that no strong enemies will come to attack us. In the War Emperor Palace, Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the bed, wearing a pair of black long pants. His upper body was bare, revealing his strong wheat-colored muscles. He held a 2-meter-long black saber in his hand and his face was full of worry. Great Emperor! A pair of dazzling jade-like hands reached out from behind him and hugged his strong and sturdy chest. Following that, a beautiful face that was both angry and happy appeared from behind him and rested on his shoulder. She kissed him on the cheek and asked seductively, "What are you thinking about? Did he not serve you well just now? This is the first time I've used a harem flower to serve you and I'm not used to it yet. Next time you must perform well, okay?" Yi Qinghan smiled, temporarily suppressing the worry in his heart. He reached out to touch Zhu Yi's smooth face, turned his head and pecked her red lips, saying, "It's none of your business. I'm just worried about the final battle. Great Emperor, it's not that I want to criticize you, but with your strength, no 9th-grade supreme martial artist is a match for you. With you here, who dares to come forward and court death? We're just defending and won't participate in the battle. I think even the stupidest experts from the alien planes won't come to bite us." Zhu Yi had been intimate with Yi Qinghan for the past few years, and became more and more subdued by his manly charm. Yi Qinghan was very gentle to others and even more so to his woman. Women in this world loved to attach themselves to the strong, and Yi Qinghan was the strongest among the strong. Moreover, his character was so outstanding. How could Zhu Yi not be infatuated with him? I hope so. Yi Qinghan was suffering in silence. His soul had mutated and his cold power was strange, so he couldn't fight in the final battle. And there was also the threat of the Divine Emperor Supreme Martial Artist, so he dared not tell anyone. It wasn't that he didn't trust Zhu Yi. It was just that he was suffering enough to bear this kind of pressure alone. Why should he let his woman suffer with him? Letting out a long breath, Yi Qinghan pretended to be relaxed. He turned around and said tenderly, If we can survive this, come back to Flame Dragon City with me. I will treat you well. If you like to play the game of Virtual Phoenix and Fake Phoenix, you can play with Ling. Of course we can play together." Zhu Yi blushed. She hit Yi Qinghan a few times with her jade-like hands, but it only caused her breasts to roll up and down. She said angrily, "I don't like to play that kind of game. Those things are cold, not as good as yours." When Yi was young, she hated men because the women of her clan were humiliated. However, ever since the first time let's not talk about it anymore, it's so embarrassing. When Yi Qinghan heard this, his curiosity was piqued. He used one hand to carry Zhu Yi over and let her lie on his lap. After that, he picked up the 2-meter-long slaughter god blade and slapped it down on her snow-white buttocks. He said fiercely, "Continue. If not, this great emperor will make your buttocks bloom. Great Emperor, please spare my life. This little girl is afraid of you. Great Emperor, you are so overbearing." Zhu Yi writhed in pain. Her white body dazzled Yi Qinghan. Her black hair, which was tied up in a bun, became messy, making her look even more charming. She crawled up and straddled Yi Qinghan's body. She wrapped her arms around his neck, bit her delicate lips and lowered her brows. 2 blushes appeared on her cheeks and even the tips of her ears were red. After a long while she said in a low voice, "This is the first time I was raped by you. Although I'm incomparably indignant, incomparably bashful, but there's a feeling that I've never felt before. The more you tortured me, the more excited I felt. Especially when you sprayed that thing on my face, I felt my soul trembling." Great Emperor, is Yi very shameless? Is Yi a slut? Yi Qinghan looked at Zhu Yi seriously and nodded his head seriously. "A little, but I like it." Zhu Yi waved her fist and lightly punched Yi Qinghan's chest. Finally, she buried her head into Yi Qinghan's chest and said shyly, "Oh, I'm not coming anymore. Emperor, you are making fun of me." Yi Qinghan gently stroked Zhu Yi's hair, then cupped her face with both hands and said seriously, I don't mean to tease you. Everyone has their own life experiences and everyone has their own personality. It's fine as long as they're not evil. As for how you want to live, just follow your heart and don't worry about what others think. As long as you can live happily, it is fine. What is more important than your own happiness in this world?" Great Emperor is the best." Zhu Yi giggled. Then she suddenly thought of something and laughed. She laughed so much that her eyebrows curved. She said sneakily, Great Emperor, take Ice Queen. I think she has a good impression of you. Ice Queen's body is the snow spirit body. If you do it, it is really interesting. What nonsense are you talking about? Who do you think I am? Do you think I can just do whatever I want? That is a stud and animal. Do you think I am such a casual person? Yi Qinghan glared at Zhu Yi and said in a righteous manner. After that, he pursed his lips and glanced at Zhu Yi as if nothing had happened. He asked in a low voice, she really has feelings for me? Outside of Demon Mountain, God World Army Camp. Ice Queen was like an ice sculpture standing outside of the Demon Mountain tunnel. Her creamy face and pitch-black eyes stared at the dark tunnel. Under her snow-white dress was a beautiful body that swayed in the wind like a snow lotus on an ice mountain. Xiao. In the distance, a person dashed over and stood in front of Ice Queen. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, Queen, time is almost up. Can you gather the soldiers to prepare? Almost. Ice Queen's eyes finally moved. She turned around and looked at Wind Moon Monarch. She waved her hand and struck out an energy wave, causing the air to shake. Gong Tian isn't dead, the Emperor is still alive. Gather the God World Army and prepare for the final battle. Ice Queen looked at the 5 people she had forced out and her face flushed red. She smiled sweetly and hollered. Ye Family Army, listen up, all God World Army, listen up. Pack up and gather. Prepare to enter the battlefield and welcome the Emperor back. Xiao. Wind Moon Monarch's shout was like a fuse. Numerous people shot out from the camp. When they saw that Gong Tian was still alive, their morale was boosted. Gong Tian was Yi Qinghan's sole slave. This news had already spread out among the low-grade cultivators. Since Gong Tian wasn't dead, then Yi Qinghan was still alive. 1,000,000 warriors were packed up in just a moment. All of them were equipped with weapons and armor and were filled with killing intent. They stood in an orderly manner outside the tunnel and waited to be teleported into the battlefield. Gong Tian and the others exchanged glances with one another and started to prepare themselves. Although they knew that the teleportation wouldn't go wrong, what if something went wrong and they teleported to the side of the army? Ice Queen and Wind Moon Monarch stood at the front. Their eyes were as bright as stars. They looked at the tall demon mountain and waited silently. Finally, a beam of white light enveloped everyone, and an irresistible force enveloped everyone. Everyone's vision blurred and the scene in front of them changed. They appeared on a mountain peak. The ground of the mountain peak was extremely flat, and the 1,000,000 people still maintained their original formation, neat and austere. Chapter 1341. No one paid attention to the situation around them. They also didn't look at the peak of Pan Mountain that reached into the clouds. The gazes of the 1,000,000 people gathered on one point, on a fiery red back view at the front of the formation. As for the green-shirt girl beside him, everyone naturally ignored her. The fiery red back view was really tall, like a sword that came out of its sheath. He looked even taller than Pan Mountain in the distance. His black hair fluttered in the wind. One could see his firm and defined side profile. Of course, one could also see the 2-meter-long black blade on his back. Greetings, Emperor. The 1,000,000 warriors, Ice Queen, Wind Moon Sovereign and Gong Tian didn't hesitate. Under the formless aura of the back view, they all knelt down on one knee and shouted in unison. The sonorous sound reverberated throughout the mountain peak and spread all around. It didn't stop for a long time. Yi Qinghan didn't turn his head and didn't say anything. His gaze was deep and distant as he looked at the 1,000,000-meter-tall mountain. He didn't speak for a long time before sighing, Pan Mountain, I am here. Pan Mountain was like a black pillar stabbed into the center of the battlefield. It was tens of thousands of meters long and millions of meters tall. On the surface, it didn't look any different from a mountain. The black stone outside was the same as the stone in the tunnel. However, it did give one a faint sense of pressure. Even Yi Qinghan felt his heart palpitate. The peak of Pan Mountain looked really flat from here. Of course, from here Yi Qinghan couldn't see the 3 wooden houses. He also couldn't see the black shadow standing on the peak. Yi Qinghan looked for a moment but didn't notice anything. With his strength and his body being refined by God power many times, his eyesight was really terrifying. Moreover, he noticed something really weird. His spiritual sense could only reach 10,000 meters, but his eyesight could see even further than that. The battlefield was really weird. There was a thick white fog all around. Even Yi Qinghan couldn't see more than 100,000 meters and his spiritual sense could only reach 10,000 meters. However, even though Mount Pan was so far away, it was still possible to see it clearly. After observing for a while, Yi Qinghan turned his head around and swept his blade-like gaze across everyone's faces. He didn't emit any aura, but everyone could sense a vast emperor's pressure that enveloped the peak like a dark cloud. Even Gong Tian, a 9th-grade sovereign, felt his soul palpitating. "Get up." Yi Qinghan's raspy and deep voice sounded on the mountain peak. "Wind Moon Monarch, use all your strength to lay down restrictions, make this mountain impenetrable by water and fire." Similarly, it didn't have to be lethal, but it had to be intimidating. "Ice Queen, assist him. Gong Tian, lead your men to defend the area. Yi family army, listen up, defensive formation, prepare for battle." "Understood." The million people shouted in unison. They all started to move in an orderly manner. Wind Moon Sovereign and Ice Queen started to lay down restrictions on the mountain peak. The Million God World Army split into 10 teams and defended the area. There were also many small scout teams that patrolled the foot of the mountain. Gong Tian and the other 4 scattered at the corners of the mountain peak. They were on high alert, spreading out their divine senses to scout all around. "Queen Zhu Yi, Beast God. Why isn't he back?" Ice Queen helped Wind Moon Sovereign lay down restrictions. She would occasionally glance at Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi. In the end, she couldn't help but send a voice transmission to Zhu Yi. Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi stood on the peak and looked at the busy crowd. They didn't say a word. When Zhu Yi heard Ice Queen's voice transmission, her face dimmed. "Beast God's life and death is uncertain. He might have fallen, Ice Queen. Don't mention this in front of the Emperor, he is already really sad." "Woo. Emperor." Ice Queen turned her head and looked deeply at Yi Qinghan. Looking at the solemn and lonely expression on his face, her heart couldn't help but hurt. Her footsteps trembled and she nearly fell. She quickly patted her chest and her face turned red again. The Wind Moon Monarch's heart wavered when he saw this. Zhu Yi sent a voice transmission once more. "However, we have enough points. Spread the news and tell everyone to defend this place. A month later we will announce that we will retreat from the battle." Ice Queen was pumped up and spread the news all around. Not long later, this news spread to the ears of every God World martial artist. Instantly, the morale of the God World army was boosted. Joy appeared on their faces. They looked at the fiery red body on the mountain peak, their gazes filled with fervor and respect. The Yi family army started to defend in an orderly manner. Wind Moon Sovereign also swiftly laid down restrictions. Yi Qinghan only requested for the restrictions to be strong enough to scare people. This was easy to lay out. In just half a day, the restrictions at the foot of the mountain were laid out. Only a small opening was left for the God World martial artists to enter. The other areas were all sealed up. "Zhu Yi, Gongtian, follow me. As for the others, defend here. Without my orders, no one is allowed to step down the mountain." A day later, Yi Qinghan had laid down the Wind Moon Sovereign's restrictions. He shouted towards Gong Tian. Zhu Yi brought Yi Qinghan down the mountain. After Gong Tian was stunned, he followed right away. The 3 of them followed the path that Wind Moon Sovereign left and headed towards the nearby area. "Emperor, where are we going?" Gong Tian followed behind Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi and asked curiously. "Let's scout around." Yi Qinghan casually replied. He opened up his divine sense and started to scout around. Although he was familiar with the battlefield under Zhu Yi's guidance, he still felt like he wouldn't be at ease if he didn't scout around. After getting down the mountain, it was all flat ground. The 3 of them started to scout to the left. Yi Qinghan believed that with his powerful divine sense, no one would discover that he was scouting around. Thus he let Zhu Yi lead the way and started running. After running for 1,000,000 miles, Yi Qinghan found countless restrictions along the way. These restrictions were hidden very cleverly. If it weren't for Yi Qinghan's powerful divine sense, he probably wouldn't have been able to find them. After 1,000,000 miles, the terrain in front of them started to change. The speed of the 3 also started to slow down. An ancient forest appeared in front of them. The dense ancient trees soared into the sky. Vines and thorns covered the ground, making it even more difficult to scout with divine sense. "Stop, turn left. Slow down. We've discovered a creature from another plane." Yi Qinghan shouted in a low voice. Zhu Yi and Gongtian quickly stopped. According to Yi Qinghan's instructions, they quietly moved to the left. They didn't dare to release their aura for fear of alerting the enemy. It's an 8-clawed golden dragon. Is this race powerful? Yi Qinghan quietly asked Zhu Yi through telepathy. His divine sense could detect that there were golden dragons hiding everywhere in the forest in front of them. Each of them had 8 claws, but their bodies were very small, only more than 10 meters long. If it weren't for Yi Qinghan, he definitely wouldn't have been able to detect them from such a distance. When Zhu Yi heard this, she revealed an expression of "I knew it." She relaxed and smiled as she transmitted her voice. They're not strong. This race was enslaved by the heavenly realm. All their powerhouses were killed. It's only been a few million years. There shouldn't be many peak powerhouses born. Emperor, have you detected a 12-clawed golden dragon? A 12-clawed golden dragon is comparable to a human rank 9 powerhouse. A 14-clawed golden dragon is comparable to a superior rank 9 powerhouse. An 8-clawed one is a low-level one, about the same as an emperor god. Chapter 1342. Yi Qinghan shook his head. The three of them circled half a circle around the dense forest. Yi Qinghan's divine sense quietly probed into the depths of the forest, but he did not detect any experts with more than 10 claws. Let's go. This plane isn't a threat to us. Yi Qinghan ordered, and Zhu Yi brought him back. Gong Tian asked curiously, Emperor, since there aren't any experts, then why not kill them all? Why ask so much? Yi Qinghan turned his head and looked coldly at Gong Tian. A cold glow flashed in his eyes. Although she didn't say anything about the conflict between Ice Queen and Gong Tian, Wind Moon Sovereign told him about it. Yes. Gong Tian smiled awkwardly and dashed away. When Yi Qinghan turned his head, a vicious glow flashed in his eyes. Hatred surged like he wanted to swallow Yi Qinghan whole. Damn, the right is actually the evil demon army? If Xiaohe wakes up, then I will let Xiaohe swallow them all. Half a day later, Yi Qinghan arrived at the right side of the deity realm's territory. However, he was surprised to find black fog rolling about in a valley. Waves of evil and ice-cold aura spread over before they even got close, which greatly surprised him. Kiki Emperor, there is no need to be surprised. Actually, the planes that are close will usually be teleported to nearby. Evil Demon World and God World are close. This Golden Dragon plane isn't far from God World, which is why it is so close. Zhu Yi wasn't surprised at all and giggled. The reason why she was so confident was that they could defend for a month. It was precisely because of the fact that the God Realm had conquered all of the major planes in the vicinity in the past, and all of their experts had been killed. How could it be easy for them to recover in just a few million years? Yi Qinghan looked behind him, only to discover that it was all flat ground. After running for 1,000,000 miles, he could actually see the Demon Mountain in the distance. However, Zhu Yi explained that he couldn't enter the Demon Mountain from here. If he wanted to leave this place, he would have to pass through the peak of Mount Pan. 2 days later, Yi Qinghan had thoroughly investigated the surrounding area. He had originally wanted to see if there were any special terrains that would make it easy for him to escape or defend. However, he didn't discover anything. To his left and right were armies from other planes. Behind him was the Demon Mountain, and in front of him was Mount Pan. This battlefield was like a cage that trapped everyone within, and it was impossible for them to leave quietly. They could only defend the stronghold and wait for a month. Xiaohe is still in a deep sleep. I don't know if he'll wake up. Hopefully he'll be able to get through this month safely. Yi Qinghan stood on the mountain peak and looked into the distance at Mount Pan that stood above everyone in Panjia. Although Zhu Yi had always emphasized that there would be no strong enemies attacking, he always felt an inexplicable palpitation in his heart, as if something bad would happen. Oh. Level 9 martial artists participating in the planar war, listen up. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly rang in Yi Qinghan's ears. The voice was incomparably faint, as if it came from the 9 heavens, yet it also seemed to be right in front of him. It was incomparably clear. The voice contained a cold intent as well as a faint murderous aura. The supreme pressure was incomparably clear, making people want to prostrate themselves in worship. Supreme Divine Emperor. Yi Qinghan suddenly exchanged a look with Zhu Yi and exclaimed. Gong Tian and the others also came to their senses. What was incomparably strange was that the Yi family army and all the low-level martial artists on the mountain peak turned a deaf ear to it. They didn't react at all. Pan Xing. Yi Qinghan secretly exclaimed in his heart. This aura, this faint murderous aura, was exactly the same as the murderous aura that had swept across his body in Demon Mountain. Even with his formidable strength, he couldn't muster up any will to fight. Yi Qinghan dared to conclude that this was definitely the Pan Xing that the woman in purple had mentioned. As expected, the voice rang out again, confirming Yi Qinghan's judgment. My name is Pan Xing and I'm the manager of the Pan Realm. The rules of this planar war have changed. The army with the highest score will directly obtain a defensive supreme spiritual treasure. In addition, the expert who kills the most 9th-grade supreme martial artists will be rewarded with another defensive supreme spiritual treasure. Kill to your heart's content, huh? As soon as the Supreme Divine Emperor Pan Xing finished speaking, the entire planar battlefield was instantly stirred up. Armies from countless big planes started to riot. They directly rushed down the stronghold and began to advance towards the bloody desert, the battleground of the previous great battles. Even Zhu Yi and the others were dumbfounded by the Supreme Divine Emperor's generosity. Gong Tian and the others were restless, their murderous aura surging from their bodies. If it weren't for the fact that Yi Qinghan didn't move, they would all want to participate in the great battle royale. Supreme Spiritual Treasure. In the previous planar battlefield, one had to rank first 3 times in a row to have the opportunity to obtain a supreme spiritual treasure. Now the first place was directly rewarded. And it was the most precious defensive supreme spiritual treasure. And 2 at once? How could the planes that thought they were powerful not take action? What is the Supreme Divine Emperor trying to do? However, Yi Qinghan's heart surged with a deep vigilance. His soul was incomparably powerful and he had comprehended many kinds of soul skills. Just now, he felt that the Supreme Divine Emperor Pan Xing's words were mixed with a soul skill. It was similar to his demonic voice, which secretly stimulated the killing intent in the hearts of the warriors in the planar battlefield. Using a soul skill and throwing out 2 supreme spiritual treasures, was he trying to make the people in the planar battlefield go crazy? Originally, because of the many years of killing in the planar battlefield, the aura inside would quietly affect the souls of the warriors, making them more bloodthirsty. At this moment, it would be strange if the planar battlefield didn't riot. He turned his head and looked at Gong Tian and the others with killing intent in his eyes. Even Zhu Yi and the Ice Queen had faint killing intent on them. They hurriedly shouted, "Everyone don't move. Stand guard where you are. Do you want to die?" Yi Qinghan used the demonic voice when he said that. Under his strong soul, it instantly cleared the killing intent in everyone's heads. Everyone's bodies shook. Along with Yi Qinghan's words, it was like a heavenly law to them. All of them suppressed the killing intent in their hearts and looked at Mount Pan in the distance. They sighed. Zhu Yi looked at Pan Shan fearfully, then said excitedly, "Great Emperor, we will be even safer now. With the God Emperor's order, 2/3 of the legions will not continue to wait and watch. They will all rush towards the bloody Gobi Desert and engage in a chaotic battle." "Blood-red Gobi Desert?" Yi Qinghan asked curiously. Zhu Yi explained, "That is the old rule of the planar battlefield. The decisive battle will be held there at the foot of Mount Pan. As there are the least restrictions there, the fog is thin, the visibility is good and the terrain is wide. Normally, chaotic battles will occur there. That place is a desert and because many people died there it was dyed red. The warriors of Pangaea like to call that place the blood-red Gobi Desert. It's better to call it the goddamned Gobi Desert." Yi Qinghan's gaze followed the tall Mount Pan to the foot of the mountain. Although all he saw was a vast expanse of whiteness, a scene appeared in his mind. From all directions, countless black dragons were rapidly gathering towards the blood-red Gobi Desert. The powerhouses of the various planes led their warriors, brandishing their swords and straightening their spines. With heavy footsteps, they began to fight the enemies in all directions. Blood splattered, heads flew and broken limbs were everywhere. Fresh blood dyed the Gobi Desert, staining hundreds of millions of pairs of eyes. The killing intent in the air was like a rainbow and blood rained down. The entire world was filled with a somber and bloody aura. And on the peak of Mount Pan perhaps there was a person standing there indifferently, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile, looking at the group of ants fighting until their heads bled over a few bones that he had thrown away, fighting excitedly, killing merrily. For some reason Yi Qinghan felt a strong sense of irony. He looked at the peak of Mount Pan and quietly raised his middle finger. He cursed, "Goddamned Gobi Desert." Chapter 1343. "Pan Xing, what are you doing? Do you know that if you do this, at least 2/3 of the people below will die? In reality, Yi Qinghan was right. There were indeed people watching the show at the peak of Mount Pan, and there were 2 of them. However, Panshi wasn't in the mood to watch the show. Her beautiful eyes were filled with rage as she glared at Pan Xing, who was standing at the edge of Mount Pan and looking down with a smile. Pan Xing didn't even turn his head. He just tilted his head slightly and sneered, "Panshi, I control the laws of heaven and earth and the laws of Panjia. I am in charge of the matters of this planar battlefield. Do I need to explain to you what I want to do?" Panshi was so angry that her expression changed slightly. Her body trembled slightly as she said angrily, "Aren't you doing this to make all the experts attack at full power? Aren't you trying to find the person who went in and out of Panjia's barrier? What if you sensed wrongly and this person doesn't exist? Wouldn't the people below have died for nothing?" Pan Xing sneered and said, "I want to find him. If I don't find him and tear him to pieces, I won't be able to rest easy." Died for nothing? Panshi, haven't you forgotten something? This planar battlefield is the grave of the experts of Panjia. They came here to die. How can they die for nothing? Panshi was startled. She was speechless. After a moment of silence, she calmed down and said slowly, "Pan Xing, actually, even if someone broke through Panjia's barrier, it wouldn't be considered a violation of the laws of Panjia or the laws of heaven and earth, right? You're just afraid that this person is too strong and you can't control him. When the time comes, he will threaten your supreme position, right?" Hearing this, Pan Xing threw his head back and laughed. His black hair fluttered in the wind. His killing intent surged like a rainbow. He was like a demon king of destruction above the 9 heavens, insufferably arrogant. He raised his hands high and his eyes shone brighter than the sun and moon. His face was filled with arrogance as he laughed domineeringly. "I am in charge of the laws of this plate realm. I can control the energies of the world in this plate realm. I am the sky of this plate realm. Even if an ant can jump around, how can it threaten me? Can a firefly compete with the bright moon? Ridiculous, ridiculous to the extreme." After saying the last word, Pan Xing waved his hands. The chi of heaven and earth in the sky gathered above him. Countless millions of meters long divine thunders turned into angry purple dragons and dashed towards him. The destructive pressure immediately covered the entire peak of Mount Pan. At this moment, Pan Xing seemed to have really become this sky, an existence that could not be surpassed, an existence that could only be looked up to. Sigh. Panshi let out a deep sigh and did not say anything else. She turned around and walked into her small wooden hut. Before she entered, she glanced in the direction of the planar battlefield, and a complicated and conflicted emotion flashed through her eyes. "Go." Pan Xing waved his hand and countless bolts of lightning quietly disappeared. The chi of heaven and earth also returned to normal. The strange thing was, not a single one of the hundreds of millions of experts in the planar battlefield had noticed it. Pan Xing smilingly looked down and leisurely said, Kill as much as you want. I'm watching you from above. Don't you always like to say, Supreme God Emperor?" "Ha! Your Majesty, we found an 8-clawed golden dragon sneaking in. What should we do?" In the base of the Immortal realm, Yi Qinghan suddenly received a message from the warriors patrolling below. Yi Qinghan exchanged a look with Zhu Yi in surprise and gave her an inquiring look. Zhu Yi's beautiful eyes rolled. She pondered for a moment and had an idea. She transmitted her voice, "Let Gong Tian scare him away. Don't kill him." Yi Qinghan nodded and understood Zhu Yi's meaning. He had always trusted Zhu Yi's schemes, so he immediately sent a telepathic message to Gong Tian. "Take 3 of your men and a small team of the strongest Yi clan army. Release your aura and pretend to be patrolling. Go scare that golden dragon away." Gong Tian happily accepted the order. His aura surged. He took Gong Tian, his men, and a team of the strongest Yi family army, all of whom were 7th-grade war gods, and swaggered down. "The golden dragon plane? If I can make a move and Xiao He wakes up, your army will be annihilated." Yi Qinghan stood quietly at the top of the mountain as a bitter smile appeared on his face. He had great strength, but he could not do anything. This caused him to feel incomparably sullen. Whoosh! Gong Tian flew back after a short while. He had a grave expression on his face. He transmitted his voice from afar. "Your Majesty, the Golden Dragon Plains army has appeared and is heading toward us. It seems like they are going to attack us." Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly and he shouted, "How many peak experts are there?" Gong Tian was startled and said awkwardly, "I was in a hurry to send the message and did not get a clear look. From afar there are at least hundreds of thousands of golden dragons." Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. Although his heart was burning with anxiety, he did not dare to show it. What he was worried about had finally happened. Now he could only pray that there were not many experts left in the Golden Dragon Plain. With a solemn expression he shouted, "Pass down my order. All Yi family soldiers are to return to defense. Wind Moon Sovereign, control the restrictions. Listen to my command and prepare for battle. Return to defense. Get into formation. Prepare for battle." Countless commanders shouted. In an instant all the Yi family soldiers moved. According to the formation that they had practiced, they formed into legions and stood on the mountain peak. They were equipped with blades and armor. There was no fear on their faces. Instead they were extremely excited. Their aura was like a rainbow. Killing intent filled the air. The wind on the mountain peak stopped blowing at this moment. Swish. Less than an hour later, in the distant sky within the white fog, many small golden dragons appeared. The ones in front all had 8 claws and their cold eyes were filled with coldness. Slowly more and more golden dragons appeared. 9 claws and 10 claws appeared. Their bodies also grew bigger. These golden dragons did not attack. Instead they surrounded the mountain peaks of the immortal world and kept roaring and roaring. They circled in the air and stared at the immortal world martial artists on the mountain peak. Their fierce eyes looked like they wanted to swallow human flesh. Dragon roars came from afar. In the fog, another group of golden dragons appeared. The ones at the front were all 11-clawed golden dragons. Their bodies were also hundreds of meters long. After the 11-clawed golden dragons, the 12-clawed golden dragons began to appear. There were more than 10 of them, all of them lined up in a row. Behind them, 7 or 8 14-clawed golden dragons appeared. After that, these 7 to 14 golden dragons separated and lined up. When 2 ghostly figures appeared from the dense fog, all the golden dragons instantly roared. Their roars shook the heavens, causing the hearts of all the Yi family soldiers to tremble. Are those the 9th grade supreme martial artists of the Golden Dragon clan? Yi Qinghan's pupils suddenly shrank. His divine sense immediately detected the 2 shadows. They were 2 half-dragonmen. Their lower bodies were that of a dragon while their upper bodies were that of a human. They had 16 dragon wings on their backs. 2 half-dragon people, 1 male and 1 female. The male had a domineering aura. He looked like an emperor who ruled the world. He flew over proudly. The female golden dragon had an extremely beautiful face. Her chest was completely bare, revealing a group of golden hemispheres that trembled as she flew. Zhu Yi's expression turned serious. Her beautiful eyes flickered. She said in a low voice, "Those who can transform into half-dragon are 9th grade supreme martial artists. How did the Golden Dragon Plain recover so quickly? In millions of years, it has produced 2 9th grade supreme martial artists, 7 or 8 upper-grade martial artists, and more than 10 9th grade experts. Emperor, hurry up and kill their leader. Otherwise, even if we win, the Yi family army will die." Ayo! The 2 9th grade supreme golden dragons had arrived. Without saying a word, the male draconian raised his head and let out a roar. A long spear suddenly appeared in his hand. His aura soared and enveloped the entire immortal world mountain range. He raised his spear and pointed it forward. He roared, "Come! Citizens of the Golden Dragon Plain, attack! Tear apart the despicable humans of the immortal world and avenge our ancestors. I want everyone in the immortal world army to die without a complete corpse." Chapter 1344. Under the command of the demi-dragon, the Golden Dragon tribe rushed up the mountain from all directions. 7 to 8 14-clawed golden dragon people and more than 10 12-clawed golden dragon people led their respective teams and attacked the mountain like a swarm of locusts. Who? The million or so golden dragons roared in unison as they opened their mouths and shot out golden fireballs. Immediately the sky was filled with golden fireballs, covering the heavens and earth. The fireballs contained terrifying energy and were incredibly fast, and the searing aura they gave off melted all of the white mist nearby, creating a grand scene that shook everyone's hearts. Yi Qinghan stood at the peak of the mountain expressionlessly. Facing such a terrifying attack, the million Yi family soldiers didn't panic at all. They didn't even move their bodies at all. Yi Qinghan calculated the distance and a cold glow appeared in his eyes. He hollered, "Yi family army, unsheath your blades and cover the entire area. Ice Queen attack." Along with Yi Qinghan's holler, the Yi family army, which was originally split into 10 square formations, all hollered in unison, suppressing the roars of the million golden dragons. After that, all of the Yi family army performed an incomparably uniform action. They took half a step back, lowered their waists and dismounted from their horses. They drew their sabers with one hand and in an instant rays of cold light shot out from their sabers. Xiao. 1,000,000 sabers were drawn out in an incomparably orderly manner, and then slashed forward in an incomparably orderly manner. Before the sabers fell, a crescent-shaped saber radiance that was several meters long whizzed out. It was colorful and extremely gorgeous, turning into 1,000,000 spatial fragmented saber streams that whistled towards the sky full of fireballs in front of them. Space froze at this moment. Ice Queen's jade-like legs tapped the ground and she turned into a cloud that floated into the air. Her beautiful body and face started to spin in the air. Along with her dancing, huge snowflakes fell from the sky. They were crystal clear and looked extremely beautiful. The scene seemed to have frozen at that moment. The sky full of golden fireballs and 1,000,000 colorful blade energies were clashing against each other. At that moment, snowflakes fell from the sky. Over 1,000,000 majestic golden dragons, 100 silent and imposing soldiers of the Yi family army, and a beautiful lady dancing in the sky. The scene was so beautiful that it was intoxicating. Hong! In the next second, the beautiful scene was shattered. Or rather, it became even more beautiful. The golden fireballs and the blade lights collided. The golden fireballs hit the blade lights and the blade lights hit the fireballs. Countless fireworks bloomed in the sky. Under the illumination of the snowflakes, it was so beautiful that it made one's soul tremble. Buzz. However, before the fireworks could fully bloom, the snowflakes fell even more heavily. The blooming fireworks were like sparks in the sky that met a heavy downpour. There were no more golden fireballs in the sky, nor were there any murderous saber lights. There was only a sky full of snow and a beautiful woman who stubbornly continued to dance. All level 9 experts come out. The Yi family army stay where they are. Wind Moon Monarch, control the restriction and listen to my command. Gongtian, hold up their level 9 experts. The rest of the level 9 experts, kill these low-level golden dragons. Ice Queen, attack indiscriminately in all directions. Fire. Yi Qinghan was still standing calmly on the summit of the mountain. His fiery red battle armor glistened brightly. His face, which seemed to have been carved by a knife, was filled with coldness. The 2-meter-long black saber was inserted into his back, quietly emitting a boundless killing intent. Swish. The Ice Queen in the sky danced even more fiercely. A pair of snow-white bare feet stepped on the void, like a little girl eating mushrooms on the snow. However, as her white sleeves fluttered, the sky no longer started to fall snowflakes. Instead, the sky was filled with falling ice, covering countless golden dragons. Zhu Yi didn't know why Yi Qinghan didn't take action when he was so powerful. However, since Yi Qinghan had given the order, she didn't hesitate. She tapped the ground with her feet, turned into a beautiful butterfly and floated forward. Gong Tian and the others didn't want to fight, especially Gong Tian. He wanted to force Yi Qinghan to return the Fire of Soul at such a good opportunity. However, under Yi Qinghan's great emperor aura, he didn't dare to act rashly. He looked at each other, gritted his teeth and shot toward the Golden Dragon army. Since he had chosen to fight, Gong Tian didn't hold back anymore. The blood-red spear in his hand turned into thousands of spear shadows, shrouding the tens of thousands of golden dragons and several level 9 golden dragons. Ayo. The male golden dragon deity in the distance sent the level 9 experts under Yi Qinghan to fight. He roared angrily and pointed his spear at the female golden dragon deity beside him. Erle, go kill that level 9 supreme martial artist. The female golden dragon deity let out a long roar and swung her dragon tail. The 2 huge meatballs in front of her chest shook and she turned into a bolt of lightning and shot toward Gong Tian. Commander of the Immortal Realm, come and fight with this dragon deity. The golden dragon deity pointed his spear at Yi Qinghan, and the provocation in his eyes was obvious. Although Yi Qinghan didn't release his aura, the golden dragon deity could tell with one look that he was the commander of the immortal realm. This was because he could feel that Yi Qinghan had the same emperor aura as him. Supreme Emperor aura. Yi Qinghan slowly unsheathed the 2-meter-long slaughter god blade. He lowered his head and caressed the slaughter god blade as though he was caressing his most beloved lover. He did not say anything and seemed to be considering if he should fight with the golden dragon god. Woo woo. The battle between Gong Tian and the others had already started. Gong Tian's attacks were incomparably domineering. The spear in his hand was a supreme spiritual treasure. Before the 9th grade supreme dragon deity arrived, he had already swept away a bunch of low-grade golden dragons. He even killed one lower grade 9 golden dragon. Zhu Yi, Gong Tian and the other 3 as well as the Wind Moon Monarch were incomparably honest. They didn't bother with the experts of the golden dragon race. They revolved their spatial powers and casually attacked, killing a bunch of low-grade golden dragons. The Ice Queen's attacks were especially domineering. Her ice spikes covered the sky and they were all area of effect attacks. How could the golden dragons who were as strong as god emperors be compared to the Ice Queen's ice spikes? Instantly the scene was extremely tragic. Countless golden dragons were like bugs that were sprayed with insecticide as they fell one by one. In just a single exchange, hundreds of thousands of low-grade golden dragons had died. As for Zhu Yi and the others, they rolled in the air and dodged. The massacre was still starting. Ayo, all citizens retreat. Despicable, despicable, shameless. All dragon gods charge towards the mountain and kill the citizens of the divine world. At the start, the golden dragon god's attention was still focused on Yi Qinghan, who was caressing the slaughter god blade. He didn't expect so many of his citizens to be killed in just one exchange. He hurriedly roared and ordered the other 9th grade golden dragons to stop chasing and charge towards the mountain. He wanted to learn from Yi Qinghan and change the battlefield to the Divine World Army. That way the Divine World sovereigns would have no choice but to retreat and fight with their own subordinates. When the battlefield changed, the low-grade Divine World martial artists would die one by one. Divine World Commander, this dragon god will tear you apart. After giving the order, the golden dragon god turned into a bolt of lightning and charged towards the mountain. His spear condensed a formless killing intent as he charged towards Yi Qinghan. All sovereigns, change your formation. Zhu Yi and the rest attack that cow. Gong Tian and the rest kill them all. After one round of attacks, retreat immediately. Before the golden dragon god finished shouting, Yi Qinghan had already secretly sent a voice transmission. Gong Tian's blood-refined spear swept out and forced the female dragon god to retreat. He then turned into a dragon and swept towards the 9th grade dragon god beside him. As for Zhu Yi and the rest, they all locked their attacks on the female dragon god at the same time, forcing her to not attack Gong Tian. How sharp was Gong Tian's attack? Now that someone was holding back the 9th grade dragon god, he could attack without restraint and easily lock down 3 9th grade dragon gods. The strength of a 9th grade dragon god coupled with the attack of a supreme spiritual treasure. After the golden dragon god gave the order, the 3 9th grade dragon gods were at a loss and didn't know whether they should advance or retreat. In an instant they were hit by the blood-refined spear, and their bodies exploded as they fell to the ground powerlessly. Chapter 1345. Everyone come back. The moment the golden dragon god moved, Yi Qinghan transmitted his voice again. Zhu Yi, Gong Tian and the rest immediately retreated. When everyone retreated, the remaining grade 9 golden dragons also came to their senses and rushed up the mountain with the golden dragon god. At this time Yi Qinghan also moved. He raised his head and slowly raised the slaughter god blade. An evil smile appeared on his face as he shouted, "Fools of the golden dragon race, you have been tricked. Wind Moon Monarch. Clatter clatter. Supreme God Emperor, please bestow upon me supreme power. Activate the world extermination restriction and kill all the bastards in front of me." When Yi Qinghan shouted, Wind Moon Monarch, who was beside him, seemed to have a seizure. His body trembled as he shouted some strange words and jumped around. The golden dragon race was stunned. Wind Moon Monarch's body trembled violently as if he was about to shoot. Dazzling rays of light burst forth from his body. Following that, the entire mountain peak lit up. Electric arcs flickered and countless furious dragons roared. a destructive pressure that was comparable to the explosion of several ninth-grade supreme martial artists instantly enveloped the entire mountain peak. The restrictions that Wind Moon Monarch had set up for a long time were all activated. God Extermination Restriction. Retreat. Retreat. The Golden Dragon God was scared half to death. Yi Qinghan's evil smile made him feel strange. Yi Qinghan's words also contained the heavenly demon voice. The Golden Dragon God's first thought was that he had been tricked. Then Wind Moon Monarch's seizure happened again. He felt even worse. Finally, the restrictions that filled the sky were activated. The destructive aura really scared him. He quickly twisted his body and without any hesitation, fled. Fools will always be fools. No wonder they were occupied by the divine world back then. Yi Qinghan smiled leisurely, but his face suddenly turned cold. He shouted at Gong Tian and the others, "All grade 9 martial artists, attack that cow with all your strength. No, that female grade 9 supreme martial artist. Kill her for this great emperor." There was no need for Yi Qinghan to say anything. With such a good opportunity, how could they not seize it when they were all peak experts who had walked through mountains of blades and seas of blood? However, since Yi Qinghan had given the order, everyone found their target. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of icicles, 1,000-layered waves, and experts of the Water God clan locked onto the female Golden Dragon God. This was especially so for Gong Tian. His expression hardened as he unleashed the attack he had used on Yi Qinghan back then. The blood-refined spear left his hand and soundlessly tore through the air. The space of the planar battlefield was so stable, but he had actually managed to create multiple scar-like cracks in it. The female Golden Dragon God had just been attacked by Zhu Yi and the others, and even though she hadn't been injured, her blood was still churning and her mind was in turmoil. Now that he was being toyed with by these restrictions and the roar of the Golden Dragon God, his mind was in a state of panic. When she saw Zhu Yi and the others attack her, her heart turned cold. She used the power of chaos to protect her god crystal and head. At the same time, the 16 wings on her back started to flap. A ball of flames appeared around her body, turning into a flame armor that wrapped around her body. Ice Queen's attack was the first to arrive. Hundreds of icicles stabbed towards the red barrier, all of them attacking one point. Instantly, energy exploded and energy waves surged. However, it was obvious that Ice Queen's attack wasn't strong enough. It didn't break the armor and only caused some small cracks. The combined attacks of Zhu Yi and the 4 Water God clan members surged forward. Such a powerful energy instantly exploded and the fiery red shield instantly burst apart. Half of the female Golden Dragon God's body was smashed into pieces. It was obvious that she was badly injured. Half of her giant meatball was left and it swayed in the wind. Finally, the most terrifying attack arrived. A blood-red spear arrived silently and its target was the god crystal of the female Golden Dragon God. Peng! A crisp sound rang out. A priceless primal chaos divine crystal, which was comparable to a sovereign spiritual treasure, turned into dust and splattered in all directions. The Golden Dragon Goddess also fell powerlessly to the ground. Everyone's eyes froze at this moment. The Golden Dragon God in the distance, the lower 9th grade Golden Dragon who had just left the mountain, and the low-level Golden Dragons in the distance all stared blankly at the Dragon God who had fallen powerlessly. They couldn't believe their eyes. Lost. All the Golden Dragons knew the outcome. In just an hour, not a single person from the God realm died. They had lost, completely lost. More than half of the 1,000,000 Golden Dragons had died. Half of the grade 9 Golden Dragons had died too. More importantly, the invincible dragon god Arale was lying on the ground. Half of her body was left. On the other hand, the strongest commander of the god realm hadn't even made a move yet. Retreat. The Golden Dragon God hollered in rage and dashed into the distance. He really wanted to charge over and fight Yi Qinghan. He knew that if he went back like this, his prestige in the Golden Dragon plane would be ruined. However, he was very clear that if he didn't retreat now, all his people would die here. As all the Golden Dragons fled frantically, their ancestors' words appeared in their minds. Unless absolutely necessary, don't start a war with the God realm. Otherwise, the Golden Dragon race would be completely annihilated. Victory. None of the God realm martial artists chased after them. This was because Yi Qinghan did not give the order. Everyone's gazes were locked on Yi Qinghan, who was on the mountain peak. They looked at him caressing the slaughter god's saber and the sinister smile on his face. Everyone felt that this was ridiculous. They had only sent out a ray of saber light. The grade 9 martial artists had only sent out a few rounds of attacks, but in exchange hundreds of thousands of giant corpses fell. This battle could be fought like this? The arch hadn't even made a move yet. Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan silently. Their souls trembled. The arch hadn't even made a move, but he had achieved such a result? If the arch had made a move, wouldn't all the gods and demons be annihilated? Retreat. Send out patrol teams to continue scouting. The rest of you stay here and guard. One team from the Yi family army, go and clean up the battlefield. This arch is tired and will take a nap first. Yi Qinghan swung the 2-meter-long slaughter god's saber elegantly in the air a few times before sheathing it behind his back. He waved his hand calmly and sent a voice transmission to Zhu Yi. The two of them disappeared from the mountain peak and entered the War Emperor Palace. Farewell, the arch. Without anyone organizing them, all the Yi family army soldiers knelt down on one knee and shouted in unison. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had become the invincible god of war in their hearts. They firmly believed that as long as the arch was around, the god realm would be able to recover its ancient glory and sweep across the entire plate realm. Gong Tian and the others exchanged glances with complicated expressions. Their hearts were pounding. The more casual Yi Qinghan was, the more they felt that Yi Qinghan was really deep and indiscernible. The aura that he gave off naturally made them feel like they were worshipping him. Ice Queen's face flushed red. When she saw Zhu Yi and Yi Qinghan disappear together, her eyes were filled with embarrassment and envy. Great Emperor, you're so cool. Yi loves you so much. Yi can't take it anymore. Yi wants to make love to you. Yi is too excited. You were so cool just now. Yi's heart itched just looking at you. The moment they entered the War Emperor Palace, Zhu Yi jumped up. Her strong legs clamped onto Yi Qinghan's waist and she was about to rip apart Yi Qinghan's robe. Her face was filled with excitement and she was as beautiful as a flower. She had always been proud of her intelligence. Today Yi Qinghan had actually relied on his intelligence to win such a beautiful victory without even making a move. How could she, who was naturally dissolute, not have a go? Phew. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and sat down, allowing Zhu Yi to press on top of him. His forehead was covered in cold sweat and his back was completely drenched. He felt powerless all over. Just now, actually, he had been pretending to be calm, but his heart was filled with extreme fear. If he could attack, he would have won a beautiful victory today. However, he didn't dare to attack even if he was beaten to death. They had 2 grade 9 supreme martial artists and so many grade 9 upper and lower grade 9 martial artists. If he wasn't careful, then he would be dead. Chapter 1346. Great Emperor, what's wrong? Zhu Yi noticed Yi Qinghan's strange behavior and quickly stopped what she was doing. She stuck to Yi Qinghan like a kitten and asked with concern. Yi Qinghan shook his head slightly and closed his eyes. He didn't say anything and calmed his emotions. Then he stood up and carried Zhu Yi to the bed. Zhu Yi didn't ask much. She obediently stuck to his chest and smiled sweetly. Yi Qinghan sat on the bed and leaned against the wall. He patted her back and let Zhu Yi lie on his lap. Zhu Yi blushed. She thought Yi Qinghan wanted her to help him blow Xiao Nongyue. She knelt on the bed and raised her butt. She was about to lift his robe and search. Don't. Yi, come and lie on my lap. I'm not in the mood right now. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. He grabbed Zhu Yi's shoulder and let her lie on his lap. He stroked her hair and said after a moment of silence, Yi, do you know why the Divine Emperor wanted to exterminate the 10 primordial races? Zhu Yi's brows furrowed slightly. Her beautiful eyes looked around and said, although no one knows the specific reason, I guessed it from the scrolls left behind by my ancestors. The divine world was too powerful back then. It ruled a quarter of the plate realm and obtained at least 10 supreme spiritual treasures. Every time they went to the planar battlefield, they could easily sweep through a large group of people. There was no doubt that they would be the first in the planar battlefield. The battles in the planar battlefield were random. Every plane was filled with races from different planes. It was basically impossible for them to work together. Hence, if the primordial races kept participating in the planar battlefield, they might have been able to unify the entire plate realm. This was something that the higher-ups would never allow. Hence, the 10 primordial races were exterminated. The divine world was almost destroyed. Yi Qinghan nodded. Zhu Yi's guess was about the same as his. Actually, the beast god and the others must have guessed it too. As the manager of the Plate Realm, Pan Xing controlled the life and death of everyone in the Plate Realm. A few disobedient and powerful ants had appeared in his territory and tried to unify all the ants. How could he not raise his hand and slap those powerful ants to death? Yi Qinghan said with a grave expression, "You also know that my strength is very strange. Not long ago my strength changed again. Right now I can easily kill more than 2 ordinary 9th grade sovereigns. The source of my attacks is different from the energy of this world. Hence, if I were to make a move at the foot of Mount Pan, that person would be able to detect it immediately. I reckon that, the moment that person discovers my strange strength, he will immediately attack me and destroy the entire God realm. Do you understand why I didn't make a move just now?" Yi Qinghan briefly told Zhu Yi about it, but he didn't tell her about the purple-robed woman's voice transmission or the cold boundary. After all, it was too shocking. Zhu Yi frowned and her eyes flickered. Although Yi Qinghan did not explain it clearly with her intelligence, she could guess some things. She could also easily sense the domineering power of Yi Qinghan's cold power. Zhu Yi also felt that Yi Qinghan's words made sense. Moreover, there must be other reasons why Yi Qinghan was so sure. The Divine Emperor Supreme. That was a pressure on everyone's heart, an insurmountable mountain. Zhu Yi remembered the record of when the Divine Emperor Supreme killed Zhu Rong. One move. Just one move. The strongest 9th grade sovereign in the God realm, Great Emperor Zhu Rong, who had the protection of the fire god armor and the power of primal chaos, was smashed into pieces by the Divine Emperor Supreme with one move. Strictly speaking, Zhu Yi thought that they were not gods, but a group of powerful people who had changed their fate. And the Divine Emperor Supreme was a true god. A true god who reigned over billions of planes and countless lives. Could mortals fight against heavenly god martial artists? Yes, they could agree, but they would definitely die. Zhu Yi stretched out her soft hand and caressed Yi Qinghan's face. Her eyes were filled with affection as she consoled him. "Birch, don't worry. Maybe things are not as bad as you think. Moreover, the Golden Dragon race will not attack again. Even if they do, we will not be afraid. There is still half a month left. At that time we can retreat from the battlefield and return to the God realm. After that, we can nurture geniuses in the God realm and strengthen the God realm. Maybe in the next planar war you will not need to fight personally." "I hope so." Yi Qinghan forced a smile. Although the Golden Dragon race had been defeated, the throbbing in his heart was still there. He kept having a premonition that something would happen. He used his divine sense to check Xiao He inside the slaughter god blade and found that he was still in a deep sleep. Yi Qinghan's heart sank even more. He used his divine sense to look inside the cold domain. The spatial whirlpool inside the cold domain was normal and extremely stable. This made Yi Qinghan feel slightly more at ease. "Arch, don't think so much. Everything will be fine." Zhu Yi gently raised her hand and brushed past Yi Qinghan's tightly furrowed brows. Yi Qinghan's solemn expression made her heart ache. Everyone only saw this man's bright appearance. However, how many people could truly understand the misery in his heart? Still not. That's impossible, right? Could it be that my senses are really wrong? At the peak of Mount Pan, Pan Xing looked down at the group of people fighting in the blood-red desert. His gaze swept across the 9th grade supreme martial artists again and again. Based on their strength, attacks, and abilities, he judged whether they could break through the barrier of Pangaea. However, after so many days, there were already dozens of armies below and hundreds of 9th grade supreme martial artists. Yet he still did not discover anything. The battle below was extremely intense. The temptation of the 2 supreme spiritual treasures, the stimulation of Pan Xing's words, and the strange atmosphere in the dimensional battlefield all stimulated the blood in the hearts of countless experts. After entering the Gobi Desert, the thick stench of blood ignited the desire to kill in everyone's hearts. There were no tricks, no logic, no reason. There was only killing, a crazy killing. As long as they were not warriors of this dimension, they would kill them first. Beastmen, mantismen, alien monsters, metal beasts, demonic beasts, ghost monsters, countless of them. Water elemental energy, fire elemental energy, time elemental energy, light elemental energy, and destruction elemental energy collided in the air. Long sabers, silver swords, giant axes, thick sticks, and all kinds of weapons shone with a cold light that blinded people's eyes. Human heads, beast heads, broken limbs, scales and flesh flew in the air. Blood had already formed a river. All kinds of energy lights were colorful. All kinds of floating divine crystals were even more gorgeous. The badges on the ground floated down like snowflakes. Along with the scarlet blood night, they floated and swayed in the desert. The blood-red desert had become a hell of a Jura. There are still some dimensions that did not participate in the battle. Pan Xing cast his gaze into the distance and saw countless more black dragons surging towards them. However, there were still a few dimensions that did not move. They were still stationed at their strongholds. However, Pan Xing checked and found that there were not many experts in those armies. Thinking that they did not dare to come and die, he felt relieved. When he looked to the left, Pan Xing raised his sword-like eyebrows again. He said with great surprise, "The Beastmen Dimension, 6 9th-grade Supreme Martial Artists, and 2 Supreme Spiritual Treasures. There are so many 9th-grade and upper 9th-grade Supreme Martial Artists. Why are they not participating in the battle? What are they doing? Why are they running so fast? What are they doing?" Chapter 1347. Hurry! Hurry! In a long canyon, countless beastmen were running wildly. There weren't many of them, only a few thousand, but all of them were above the venerable level. All the rank 9 beastmen had been mobilized. This time, the snake-headed beastman was prepared to destroy the divine realm in one fell swoop and seize the 3 paragon spiritual treasures of the divine realm. The snake-headed beastman was incomparably furious. His original plan was to bring all his elites and leave quietly and quickly. He even deliberately took a detour at other planes' strongholds, not wanting to alarm the powerhouses of other planes along the way. He didn't expect that Pan Xing's words would cause them to encounter a plane legion that was preparing to rush to the Gobi Desert as soon as they left the stronghold. In the plane battlefield there was no reason to see or explain. Once they encountered a foreign plane legion they would kill it first. Moreover, under the stimulation of Pan Xing's words he could suppress the killing intent in his heart, but his subordinates couldn't. Hence, a chaotic battle began and they were forced to participate. After fighting for 3 days and 3 nights, they finally killed all the powerhouses of the Plane Legion, and more than half of the Legion was destroyed. However, only 3,000 of the 6,000 junior commanders were left, and more than 10 rank 9 and upper rank 9 commanders were killed. Fortunately, the rank 9 great commanders were not killed. Otherwise, the snake-headed beastman would be so angry that he would vomit blood. Although Pan Xing had opened 2 paragon spiritual treasures, the snake-headed beastman didn't change his original intention. Yi Qinghan had killed 4 of their rank 9 supreme martial artists, as well as several rank 9 and upper rank 9 commanders, greatly damaging their legion's strength. Originally he had the confidence to take first place, but now he wasn't so confident. At this moment he didn't want to participate in the chaotic battle. Most importantly, there were 3 ready-made paragon spiritual treasures in the divine realm waiting for him to take them. He wasn't a fool. Although Pan Xing's sudden order caused them to encounter a strong enemy as soon as they left the stronghold, their journey was smooth afterward. Those planes had either gone to the Gobi Desert a long time ago, or they were very weak planes that were guarding and not coming out. In half a month the Beastman had crossed more than half of the distance. They would reach the divine realm in another 5 to 6 days. The snake-headed Beastman became even more anxious, and it kept urging him. It was just that there were thousands of Beastman junior commanders, and there were restrictions everywhere. They couldn't go fast even if they wanted to. The terrain of this place was a canyon and there were even more restrictions. Although they could easily sense it, those junior commanders couldn't. They were rank 9 powerhouses. They could only stand by the side of the restriction and let the juniors take the lead. After all, if they were trapped or teleported, these little commanders would definitely die. Few were finally out of this damned canyon. He had to reach the divine world within 3 days. Fox Lady, keep an eye on that old man. He's going to be very useful. After the commanders charged through the canyon, the snake-headed orc became spirited and roared at Foxy in the distance. His body turned into an afterimage as he flew out of the canyon. Don't worry, this old fellow is staying well in my spatial divine tool. Foxy smiled coquettishly. She twisted her charming body and ran forward. Out of the canyon it was a flat stretch of land. There were fewer restrictions too. The Beastman army was overjoyed and started running at full speed. Countless Beastman commanders' eyes glowed red. It was as if they could see martial artists from the divine world writhing and trembling under their butcher knives. "Report, Your Majesty. There's a swamp ahead. There are countless restrictions in it. Dozens of our people are trapped inside. They don't dare to go forward." After running for half a day, a bare-headed great commander hurried toward them. His bare face was full of worry and anxiety. "What?" The snake-headed orc was furious. They were so close to the divine world and now there was a damned swamp. If they were entangled in this swamp for half a month, their cooked duck would fly away. The snake-headed orc and Foxy were originally in the middle of the army. At this moment they hurried toward the front camp. After running for tens of thousands of li, they saw a vast, endless swamp in front of them. It was like a natural moat in front of the army, impossible to cross. "Have you checked the left and right? Can't we go around it?" The snake-headed orc roared angrily. This kind of swamp was what he was most afraid of. The white fog here was thicker and visibility was lower. There would definitely be more restrictions so they might be able to cross it easily. However, for these several thousand small commanders to cross it, it would take at least half a month. If they waited for half a month, the Divine World Army would have already withdrawn from the battle and teleported to Mount Pan. "Your Majesty, Leopard 3 and Leopard 4 have already gone to investigate. However, they have already sent back a message. It is clear that this swamp is incomparably vast." The Vanguard General shook his huge head and said helplessly. The snake-headed orc snorted angrily. His body turned into an afterimage as he charged into the swamp. He spread out his divine sense with all his might. After flying a few rounds in the swamp, he flew back angrily. He cursed from afar. "Foxy, our army will not be able to cross this damned place without 10 days. The Vanguard General scratched his head and said anxiously, "Your Majesty, what should we do? Leopard 3 and Leopard 4 haven't returned after so long. It is clear that this damned place is very difficult to cross. Should we let the army advance slowly first? Don't be anxious. Wait for Leopard 3 and Leopard 4 to return first." The snake-headed orc's blood-red eyes scanned the surroundings viciously as he said in a low voice. Foxy's pair of foxy eyes also turned. She nodded and said, "Your Majesty is right. Let's wait first." After half a day the two leopard heads finally returned. Their faces were gloomy. It was clear that it would be very difficult to go around the swamp or that they would need to spend more time. "Your Majesty, it will be very difficult to go around it." As expected, the two leopard heads' answers were the same. More than 100 rank 9 half-beast commanders all looked at the snake-headed orc, waiting for his decision. The snake-headed orc's blood-red eyes turned and he ordered, "Foxy, bring 50 commanders and rush to the Divine World stronghold as quickly as possible. Remember, if you are not confident, delay them first. As long as you can delay them until we arrive, I will remember your great merit." Foxy seemed to have expected that the snake-headed orc would give such an order. She smiled faintly and selected 48 rank 9 commanders and 2 rank 9 supreme martial artists to fly into the swamp. These were all peak powerhouses. They were very fast and their divine senses were very strong. They could easily detect restrictions. Their flying speed was frightening. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the white fog ahead. "Everyone move out. The commanders will scout the way. The rest of the junior commanders will follow your commanders. Be careful. Don't blame others if you die." The snake-headed orc let out a deep sigh and ordered. Looking at the thousands of junior commanders, he somewhat regretted bringing them along. However, he was also worried about leaving them at the stronghold. It did not matter if those low-level half-beastmen died. They were the future hope of the half-beastmen. He looked at the thousands of half-beastmen slowly flying forward under the leadership of the remaining rank 9 commanders. He sighed helplessly. His blood-red eyes looked at the thick fog in the distance. He said with incomparable resentment, "Foxy, you must delay them. When our army arrives, the Divine World Legion will be completely annihilated." Chapter 1348. Alas, at the summit of Pan Mountain, a faint sigh came from a small wooden hut on the left. The wooden hut looked very small and simple from the outside, but it was a completely different world inside. Inside this small wooden hut was a beautiful palace. The palace was made of white jade stone, and there was not a single seam in it. The interior of the palace was not very luxurious. Instead, it was extremely elegant, filled with small purple ornaments, making the entire palace look very beautiful. She sat in a small hall, drinking a cup of purple tea. Her breathtakingly beautiful face was frowning slightly, making one's heart ache. Indeed, She's beauty could make any woman in the world jealous and any man in the world moved. However, the numb aura that naturally flowed out of her body weakened her charm somewhat. Pan Huang said that the existence of any life form in this world is reasonable. The fall of any life form is preordained by the heavens. That young man comprehended the unyielding Tao of the three prime Daos, and his strength is so strange. It looks like he might be the one to break through Pan Realm's barrier. However, so what if he broke through the barrier? His existence is reasonable, the cycle of life. Although his soul came from another plane, it is also normal. He should not have been killed by Pan Xing. Pan Xing had already done something wrong in the past. He couldn't let him do it again. How many years has it been since a genius comprehended the prime Tao appeared? She muttered to herself as she held the tea. She frowned at one moment, then shook her head the next. Her beautiful eyes showed a conflicted expression. Alas, Pan Huang has not appeared for several epochs. Otherwise he would have been the one to decide. Pan Huang, what should She do? Should I save that young man? However, I am in charge of the cycle of life. Enforcing the law is not under my jurisdiction. Will you blame She when the time comes? She's pleasant voice continued to ring out, echoing in the palace. Finally it turned into a heavy sigh. After a long time, the door of a small wooden hut at the summit of Pan Mountain opened, and a beautiful woman in purple walked out. She ignored Pan Xing, who stood proudly at the summit, and walked to the edge of the cliff alone. Then she cast her deep and distant gaze into the distance. The wind blew her black hair, blinding her eyes. A stronghold in the divine world. This is the stronghold in the divine world that His Majesty spoke of. This is the mountain. From the left side of the base in the immortal world, 51 figures flew over soundlessly. All of them had human bodies and beast heads, and their faces were filled with excitement and killing intent. However, under Foxy's orders, all the half-beastmen retracted their auras and quietly advanced. Foxy's vision was the strongest. She could see a steep mountain peak from afar. It was exactly the same as the stronghold in the heavenly realm that the snake-headed orc had created. Fox Lady, what do we do now? The bare-headed great commander of the half-beast army had followed them this time and asked in a muffled voice. Everyone stay where you are. I'll go and take a look. Foxy waved her hand. She turned into a willow catkin and floated forward. Retracting his aura, he stealthily snuck toward the base in the immortal realm like a ghost. A million low-level martial artists, 1 lower 9th grade and 5 upper 9th grade. Why was there only 1 9th grade supreme martial artist? Could it be that His Majesty's information was wrong? Or is that 9th grade supreme martial artist dead? Foxy was shocked as soon as she probed. However, as soon as she was shocked, Gong Tian, who was sitting cross-legged on the peak of the mountain, reacted immediately. His gaze was sharp as a knife as he shouted, "Enemies!" Swoosh! Gong Tian roared. All the 9th grade martial artists' divine senses swept around and became alert. The Yi family army was filled with murderous intent. Countless scouting squads ran down the mountain and started investigating. We've been discovered? So what if we've been discovered? 1 9th grade supreme martial artist and 5 upper 9th grade martial artists? We have 3 9th grade supreme martial artist commanders on our side. The 3 of us are enough to destroy you all. Foxy was shocked. Then her aura surged. She stopped hiding and let out a long roar. The 59th grade half-beast commanders in the distance responded immediately. Then they let out a long roar. A brutal and violent aura shot up into the sky, enveloping all the space nearby. They quickly surrounded the stronghold in the immortal world. These are the beastmen powerhouses who killed the beast god. Why are there so many 9th grade martial artists? There are even 3 9th grade supreme martial artists. Moon Breeze. Report to the Emperor immediately. The Ice Queen saw a woman with a fox's head and a human's body walk out from the fog. Then countless tall and strong half-beastmen walked out from the fog. Each of them had a terrifying aura. Instantly her snow-white face turned red as she shouted. Gong Tian and the rest, as well as all of the Yi family army, also saw the 51 experts below. 51 half-beastmen felt like 51 ancient beasts. It made the faces of the Yi family army and the 9th grade martial artists turn as white as snow. Tear everyone on the mountain peak apart. Foxy had a charming smile on her face, but her eyes were filled with killing intent. She waved her furry hand and 50 beastmen with auras comparable to primordial beasts flew towards the mountain peak, their bodies covered in black destructive power. They had ferocious expressions on their faces. Emperor, Emperor. Although the Wind Moon sovereigns were so frightened that their souls were trembling, when they heard the Ice Queen's words, they paused for a moment before coming back to their senses. They gathered spatial energy in their hands and pushed towards the mountain peak. The layers of space started to tremble. Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi's bodies appeared in the air. Emperor. When Yi Qinghan, who was carrying a 2-meter-long slaughter god blade on his back, appeared in the air, everyone's morale was lifted. Their solemn expressions turned into joy. The 1 million Yi family soldiers and all the sovereigns stared at the fiery red silhouette and his chiseled face. Their hearts surged with the conviction that they would definitely win. With the Emperor around, no matter how many enemies there are, they won't be able to withstand a single blow. The Emperor will definitely lead us to tear the enemies in front of us apart. Such a sentence appeared in everyone's mind. The originally low morale instantly rose. The morale on the mountain peak surged and killing intent filled the air. Mother of Astersker. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like lightning as he stood proudly in the air with an indifferent expression. He indifferently looked at the 50-peak half-beastman powerhouses that were madly rushing towards him. Although he looked calm on the surface, his heart was filled with bitterness. What he was worried about had happened. The warning in his heart wasn't about the experts from the Golden Dragon dimension but the Beastmen dimension. Fight. Or not fight. Yi Qinghan held the slaughter god blade tightly as his mind started to work. If he didn't fight, everyone would die, including him. If he fought, he might have a chance of survival. However, if he was discovered by Pan Xing, he would still die. Not only the people here but the entire god world would probably die. Yi Qinghan's gaze suddenly rose as he gazed at Mount Pan in the distance. His eyes were filled with pain as a drop of cold sweat dripped down his forehead. At the peak of Pan Shan, Pan Xing was indeed watching a good show. At this moment he was also paying attention to the Beastmen dimension. His lips curled into a mocking smile as he looked over with interest. These Beastmen are indeed here to annihilate a planar legion. They are actually from the god world. The show is starting. Chapter 1349. Pan Xing still had a deep memory of the divine world. It wasn't just because he had killed most of the peak experts in the divine world, nor was it because the divine world had taken supreme spiritual treasures from him many times. It was because of the 10 ancient clans. In the countless planar wars, he had stood at the peak of Mount Pan and looked down at the 10 ancient races easily slaughtering the experts of other planes. How could he not remember it deeply? Originally, he didn't care about the divine world. He didn't think that the divine world could recover in a few million years. However, one of the most powerful planes, the Beastmen plane, didn't participate in the war. Instead, they secretly attacked the divine world. This made him, who was originally watching the boring battle below, suddenly become interested. Oh no! She wasn't looking in the direction of the divine realm. Instead, she was using a special technique to observe the stronghold of the divine realm. When she sensed the current situation of the divine realm and Pan Xing's gaze, her heart sank. Her eyes, which were as beautiful as the stars in the sky, were suddenly covered with a layer of dark light. In such a situation, could that young man who had comprehended the supremacy Dao not make a move? If he didn't make a move, he would definitely die. If he made a move, Pan Xing would definitely die. Was it a situation of certain death for the soldiers to force him to abdicate? She didn't know. She didn't know that her heart, which hadn't wavered for a few eras, was now hanging by a thread because of a young man. She also didn't know that her numb and heavy body suddenly released a vigorous life force. At this moment she was so beautiful that no one dared to look at her directly. The 9 heavens goddess seemed to be descending to the mortal world. To fight or not to fight? Yi Qinghan, who was below, still looked calm. His body was like a sharp sword standing straight and proud. He was like a 1,000-year-old pine tree that would never fall. However, his fingers that were holding the slaughter god blade tightly, as well as his green and white fingers, betrayed the urgency in his heart. E-family army retreat. Ice Queen suppress the area. All level 9 experts attack with arrows. Wind Moon Monarch control the restriction. Gong Tian attack with all your strength. Target. the bare-headed man at the front. Before Yi Qinghan could move, Zhu Yi, who was beside him, let out a long whistle and directly gave the order on behalf of Yi Qinghan. She looked deeply into Yi Qinghan's eyes, and with a tap of her foot, she transformed into a streak of light that shot off into the distance. As she flew through the air, she looked back at Yi Qinghan and smiled sweetly. Your Majesty, you absolutely, positively must not make a move. Just use your soul to assist us in our attacks. If the situation doesn't look good, you should flee for your life. Remember, as long as you're alive, the God world will not be defeated. There's still hope. Yi Qinghan briefly explained the situation to Zhu Yi. Of course, Zhu Yi knew Yi Qinghan's internal struggle at the moment. She also knew that he couldn't fight. Therefore, the light in her eyes was incomparably resolute, the light of certain death. When everyone saw Zhu Yi give the order, they thought that it was Yi Qinghan who gave the order. They thought that Yi Qinghan was ready to make a move. Although they were nervous, they didn't hesitate at all. With a roar, they were like countless ferocious tigers descending the mountain, and all of them attacked. The Ice Queen tapped her foot on the ground, and her graceful body spun upwards, transforming into a blooming snow lotus. She started to dance in the air alone. As she danced, the temperature in the air instantly dropped, and snowflakes started to cover the entire mountain. Dragon battles the four fields. In the face of a life-and-death crisis, Gong Tian didn't dare to hide her strength at all. Her body transformed into a swimming dragon and shot towards the bear man at the front. She revolved her blood-refined spear with all her might and pierced through the air like a specter. The four people from the water god race behind her and Zhu Yi also attacked with all their might, forming an arrow formation. They only had one target, the bear man at the front, a grade 9 supreme martial artist. Soul illusion. After being shouted at by Zhu Yi, Yi Qinghan came to his senses, and his hand that was holding the slaughter god blade loosened a little. He stabbed the slaughter god blade into the ground, and a demonic light lit up in his eyes. He instantly released the soul illusion, enveloping the 50 grade 9 experts in front of him. His train of thought had almost reached a dead end. After the might of his power of cold had increased by 2 times, he had always wanted to use the power of cold to easily kill the enemy's 9th grade supreme martial artists. However, he had forgotten that he still had a heaven-defying attack, soul attack. The lady in purple said that he couldn't use his strange attack in the dimension battlefield. He subconsciously thought that he couldn't use it in the dimension battlefield. Now, after Zhu Yi's shout, he finally came to his senses. Soul attack was very common. Even though his soul had reached the Great Perfection realm, it was still considered a normal attack. Even if Pan Xing discovered it, it would be fine. Furthermore, soul attack was silent and not as powerful as the cold energy. Soul destruction. At this moment, Yi Qinghan seemed to have come alive. His eyes were like lightning, and after releasing the soul illusion, he immediately used the soul destruction attack on the bear man at the front. A grade 9 supreme martial artist had a Great Perfection realm soul. How powerful was the ancient soul secret technique released? At this moment, the experts from the Beastmen dimension could feel it the most. 51 grade 9 Beastmen experts, except for the 3 grade 9 supreme martial artists, all the other Beastmen commanders fell into the soul illusion. They suddenly realized that the mountain in front of them had disappeared, their teammates had disappeared, and even Pan Xing in the distance had disappeared. In this world, he was the only one left. When Yi Qinghan's soul strength reached the upper grade 9, he could make all the lower grade 9 martial artists fall into the illusion. It was a vast expanse of white in front of them, and their visibility was less than 100 meters. When he fought with the heavenly fox woman, his soul broke through the last step and reached the Great Perfection realm of grade 9 supreme martial artist. At this moment, the power of the soul illusion was so strong that even the upper grade 9 martial artists fell into the illusion, not to mention the lower grade 9 martial artists. Moreover, they fell into the illusion completely and couldn't detect the situation around them at all. A strange scene appeared in the scene. The Beastmen commanders, who were originally like ancient fierce beasts, suddenly retracted their auras. Their bodies, which were moving forward at high speed, all stopped in the air, and a look of horror appeared on their faces. One of the Beastmen commanders, out of fear, actually began to release attacks in all directions randomly. At this moment, the sky was no longer falling snow but icicles. The 48 Beastmen commanders were immediately enveloped by the icicles, and they were scared half to death, their nerves tensed up. Most importantly, They were already very close to each other. At this moment, when one of the Beastmen commanders began to release attacks randomly, the commanders next to him who were attacked immediately responded. In an instant it caused a chain reaction. All the Beastmen commanders began to attack randomly in the air in fear. Blood-refining god. Gong Tian and the others didn't care about the Beastmen commanders at all. 6 pairs of eyes were fixed on the bare-headed man in front of them. 1,000-layer waves, water pillars, water arrows, and a blood-refined spear that caused cracks to appear in the air, smashed towards the bare-headed man with an unstoppable force. Chapter 1350. The leader of the bare-headed man's mind was not complicated. His favorite fighting style was to use brute force to determine the outcome of a head-on battle. That was why he didn't place any extra defenses on his body. Although everyone's attacks were ferocious, especially the aura coming from the blood-refined spear, which made his soul palpitate, he wasn't afraid at all. Instead, he was extremely excited. 2 balls of black destructive energy condensed on his fists, and black streams of energy flowed around his body, forming a strange armor. The flow of black energy around his fists was also extremely strange. Or perhaps it could be said that it was incomparably twisted. It was a dazzling sight, and the space around his fists was distorted. Ayo! Seeing that everyone's attacks were about to reach him, the bare-headed man raised his head and roared. His body suddenly enlarged, becoming hundreds of meters tall. His fists also became several meters wide. The 1,000-layer wave was the first to attack. The vast aura covered the sky and the earth, like a tsunami, covering the bare-headed man. The bare-headed man was not afraid at all. He punched with his left hand. The black air currents made the space tremble. In an instant the 1,000-layer wave flowed backward and then collapsed. It did not even touch the bare-headed man's skin. Water pillars, water arrows, water ripples and water bombs came one after another. The sky was full of attacks, forming an arrowhead shape, all shooting at the bare-headed man. Under the attacks of the 4 water gods, the power of the water element was displayed incisively and unusually ferocious. The bare-headed man revealed a cruel smile. His hands danced and the black air currents twisted in an awkward trajectory. Finally, it formed a disc in front of him, blocking all the attacks. Bang! The attacks of the 4 upper 9th level water gods swarmed over. The powerful energy that could flatten a tall mountain only made the disc tremble slightly, and a few cracks appeared. The bare-headed man, a pinnacle expert, had the strength of a 9th-level supreme martial artist. Swish! The blood-refined spear came late, not because Gong Tian's attack speed was not fast enough, but because he deliberately controlled it and attacked last. The previous attacks were only used to exhaust the bare-headed man's destructive power, and to keep him busy defending, so he could not use his full strength to deal with the strongest attack. But looking at the bare-headed man's ferocious eyes and the mocking expression on his furry face, Zhu Yi and the others knew that their attacks only scratched an itch for the bare-headed man. Did not affect him at all. Go! Gong Tian's gaze was like that of a ferocious ghost. He floated in the air, his hands dancing in the air as he controlled the blood-refined spear with all his might. He didn't understand why Yi Qinghan was still standing in his original position, but he was very clear that he had to kill this bare-headed man. Otherwise, everyone here would die today. Ayo! When the bare-headed man saw the blood-refined spear coming at him, not only did he not show the slightest bit of fear, but a fanatical fighting spirit appeared in his ferocious eyes. His body, which was hundreds of meters tall, shot out endless black light. It was as if a demonic god had descended from the heavens, and no one dared to look at him directly. He raised his head and roared furiously. His hands danced like windmills, forming black balls of air in front of him. They formed many discs stacking on top of each other. Clearly he wanted to use the violent destructive power to stop the spear. Xiao! The blood-refined spear carried Gong Tian's greatest strength as it charged forward with an earth-shattering momentum. In the blink of an eye, it stabbed into the black disc. Boom! Cracks had already appeared on the first layer of the disc, and with a single touch, it instantly crumbled. The speed of the blood-refined spear did not slow down and continued to stab forward at lightning speed. The second layer break. The third layer break. The fourth layer, the fifth layer break. Good. Satisfying. The bare-headed man laughed heartily. He did not panic when he saw 4 of the 5 layers of the disc that he had just formed break in the blink of an eye. His hands changed from fists to palms, then palms to claws. He made an awkward pose in front of his chest and twisted rapidly. The black light on his body shone brightly again. The last layer of the disc in front of him began to spin wildly. Oh no. Gong Tian's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at the blood-refined spear in front of him. His entire body's consciousness was locked onto the spearhead. When the blood-refined spear stabbed into the last layer of the disc, Gong Tian's heart suddenly sank. He felt as if the spear had stabbed into a quagmire, and its speed suddenly decreased. Even if he forcefully broke through, he did not know if he could break through, let alone injure the bare-headed man. No. Die. Gong Tian roared crazily. At this moment, what could he do? He could only use all his strength to seek this one merit. Therefore he madly spat out a mouthful of blood and burned his divine power to break through. The blood-refined spear shook and sped up, piercing through the last layer of the disc with great difficulty. Gong Tian's consciousness locked onto the spearhead and followed it. However, he saw the bare-headed man's mocking expression. He saw the bare-headed man's hands moving rapidly, forming a smaller black disc that blocked the path of the blood-refined spear. Goddamn it. All my previous efforts have been for nothing. Gong Tian shook his head helplessly. The momentum of the blood-refined spear had been completely dispersed. It could not break through the disc, much less cause any harm to the bare-headed man. He licked the blood at the corner of his mouth. He felt a wave of bitterness. He was ready to give up. Just as he was about to withdraw the blood-refined spear and declare that everyone's attack had failed, he suddenly discovered something strange. Suddenly he noticed something strange. The bare-headed man's body suddenly trembled. Then he clutched his head in agony and roared in the air. The disc formed by the power of destruction in front of him quietly disintegrated. Die. Gong Tian would grasp such a good opportunity even if he was an idiot. He used all his remaining strength and spat out another mouthful of blood. He madly controlled the blood-refined spear to accelerate and stab at the bare-headed man's abdomen. Bang! The sound of a watermelon shattering could be heard. A thick power of destruction filled the air. The blood-refined spear easily pierced through the bare-headed man's majestic body. The bare-headed man roared in pain. Its eyes were the size of a human head and it slowly fell down in disbelief. A spatial ring slowly floated into the air. This. Gong Tian blinked blankly. He did not understand what was happening. Why did the bare-headed man suddenly give up resisting and let him assassinate him? The power of chaos outside the divine crystal also did not resist? However, when he saw the group of half-beast commanders in front of him killing each other crazily, the look of confusion in his eyes became even more intense. What was happening? Gong Tian withdrew the blood-refined spear and looked at the Water God clan and Zhu Yi behind him. He discovered that all of them were staring at a fiery red figure on the mountain peak. On the mountain peak, the fiery red figure still stood proudly. There were no signs of divine power or spatial power gathering on his body. His face was calm and indifferent. However, at this moment, two rays of light that were comparable to the demonic sun lit up in his eyes. No one dared to look at him directly and they had the urge to worship him. It's him. What kind of demonic technique is this? Are soul skills so powerful? His strength has already reached such a terrifying level. He can kill people without even moving. A deep sense of powerlessness and fear surged in Gong Tian's heart. Not just him, all the experts of the Water God clan felt a chill run from the top of their heads to the bottom of their feet as they gazed at the fiery red figure. Their bodies were icy cold and they no longer dared to have the thought of becoming enemies with him. It was too late, but it happened too quickly. Actually, all of this happened in a few blinks of an eye. The Ice Queen was still dancing in the sky. She was breathtakingly beautiful, but the situation on the battlefield had changed in an instant. The 9th-grade Supreme Bare-Headed Man died in battle. Other than the remaining two 9th-grade Supreme Martial Artists, all the half-beast commanders fell into a chaotic battle. At this moment, there were already more than 10 lower 9th-grade beastmen who had fallen in the chaotic battle. Stop. Just at this moment, a sharp cry rang out from the Beastman realm's side. A woman with a fox head turned into a blur that shot to the front of the Beastman realm's army. She waved her hand and a withered old man appeared in her hand. Fox Maiden's face was as cold as frost. She held the beast god's head in one hand with the power of destruction. Her gaze was like lightning as she stared straight at Yi Qinghan. She shouted, "Emperor Han Yi, is it? If you don't stop, don't blame me for being merciless. I'll turn your ancestors' bones to dust." Chapter 1351. Soul Spirit Attack. Such a powerful soul spirit attack? A peerless genius had appeared in the divine world. This person doesn't have any divine power? He has 2 paragon spiritual treasures. What a freak. At the peak of Mount Pan, Pan Xing watched the battle below with interest. Initially he thought that the divine world would definitely lose. He didn't expect that one person would turn the situation around. Furthermore, this person was a rarely seen great perfection soul spirit expert. However, Pan Xing didn't mind. In the Pan realm, many dimensions had experts who specialized in cultivating the soul spirit. There were many great perfection soul spirit experts, so it was normal. What he was concerned about was the attacks from Gong Tian, the water god tribe, and Zhu Yi. Although Zhu Yi, Gong Tian, and the rest had their divine power attributes changed under Yi Qinghan's ghost transformation, Pan Xing still felt that their attacks were familiar. Fortunately, the strongest attack from Gong Tian was a technique from the blood-refined spear. As for Zhu Yi and the rest who were above grade 9, Pan Xing directly filtered them out. Pan Xi quietly observed the battlefield and Pan Xing. She realized that Yi Qinghan didn't even use his cold power, but he still managed to escape from certain death. She also realized that Pan Xing didn't discover anything. She was slightly relieved and her face revealed a hint of joy. She was like a little girl who didn't know the ways of the world. The faint smile on her face caused her aura to subconsciously change. However, in the next second her eyebrows furrowed slightly. The situation below changed again. "Old ancestor," Yi Qinghan exclaimed and his face lit up. The demonic light in his eyes immediately disappeared, but he didn't remove the soul spirit illusion immediately. He raised the slaughter god blade with one hand and pointed the blade at Fox Lady. His killing intent soared as he said angrily, "You dare to touch a single hair on his head? I swear that I will destroy your beastmen dimension." This Fox Lady replied to Yi Qinghan by grabbing the beast god's hand with one hand. She suddenly pulled and tore one of the beast god's hands out. Immediately blood spurted out. The beast god was originally in a daze, but now he cried out in pain. His eyes were still in a daze. Foxy had a sinister smile on her face. She raised the beast god's arm up high and looked at Yi Qinghan as she said, "Aren't you going to withdraw your soul skill?" Yi Qinghan smiled, revealing a trace of ferociousness. However, he immediately withdrew his soul illusion and restrained his murderous aura. Those who were familiar with Yi Qinghan knew that Yi Qinghan's anger had reached its limit. Zhu Yi quietly stepped back and grabbed Yi Qinghan's hand, signaling him not to act rashly. "Oh, damn it! Which bastard attacked me just now? Niu Shirsen, you attacked me just now. I want to kill him. Zhu Lu, I'll *CK you up. Why did you attack me?" As soon as Yi Qinghan's soul illusion disappeared, the half-beast commanders immediately discovered that the people attacking them were actually their own people. They immediately flew into a rage and cursed. "All of you shut up. Zepek. I'll tear anyone who dares to say anything else." Foxy's face was cold. Her left hand was still holding onto the beast god's arm. Blood flowed down and dyed half of her body red. Combined with her bone-chilling murderous aura, she looked even more ferocious and terrifying. All the half-beast commanders retreated, leaving only Foxy and a half-beast commander with a Qilin head in the air. Foxy was incomparably furious. Today her wrong decision had caused the deaths of more than 10 commanders of the Beastmen plane, including a 9th-grade supreme martial artist commander. She thought of what the snake-headed half-beast man had said before he left and his methods. She couldn't help but shudder. She rolled her eyes a few times, and the cold air around her became even colder. "Emperor Han Yi, hand over the 3 supreme spiritual treasures, and I will release him immediately. Otherwise, you can only watch as your ancestor is torn to pieces by me in front of you." Yi Qinghan's body trembled. Before he could speak, Zhu Yi, who was beside him, gripped his hand tightly. Then she smiled and said, "Ha Vixen, do you think that's possible? We'll hand over the Paragon's spiritual treasures and wait to be killed by you? Do you think we'll let the billions of people in the divine world die for one person? Do it. Let's see how many of you can escape after we kill the beast god." "Is that so? Then I'll have to do it." Foxy narrowed her eyes and shot out 2 rays of cold light. Her murderous aura burst forth and she was about to attack. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and his body trembled violently. His heart was in extreme pain. Finally he opened his eyes and waved the slaughter god blade. He shouted, "Everyone get ready. Kill everyone in the half-beast dimension and take revenge for the beast god." Although family was important, the lives of billions of people in the divine world were even more important. The beast god only had 1 life, but there were more than 1,000,000 lives here. Swish. Gong Tian and the others immediately circulated their divine power and condensed spatial power. Their murderous aura filled the air. They were just waiting for Foxy to kill the beast god. Then with the help of Yi Qinghan's soul skills, they would kill everyone. Hehe. Foxy's hand, which was condensing the power of destruction, stopped in mid-air. She smiled and said, "Why not? We can exchange one of the treasures." When 2 sides met on a narrow path, the courageous one would win. When 2 sides fought, one side compromised and the other side's morale fell. Zhu Yi was extremely intelligent. Of course she saw through this immediately. How could she not seize this opportunity? She smiled and immediately flew forward with Yi Qinghan. At the same time she shouted coldly, "Not even half of the treasures. The beast god's soul has already been searched by her. His soul has been completely destroyed and he has become a cripple. Everyone attack and avenge the beast god." Although Gong Tian and the others didn't believe Zhu Yi's words, they couldn't die because of the beast god. All of them immediately roared and turned into several sharp arrows that shot forward. Yi Qinghan knew that Zhu Yi's decision was right, but his heart was burning with anxiety and pain. If Foxy made a move, he might blame himself for the rest of his life. But the situation was like an arrow on a bowstring and it had to be released. He could only bet that Foxy wouldn't dare to make a move. At that moment the soul exterminator was activated, and it shot straight at the Qilin half-beastman beside Foxy. "Stop. Let us go and I will release him immediately." Foxy saw the Qilin half-beastman beside her being attacked by the soul exterminator by Yi Qinghan. Her body instantly trembled and fear appeared in her eyes. In the distance, Gong Tian rushed over and was about to release his attack. Once the soul exterminator arrived, this Qilin half-beastman would also die. She quickly shouted, "Stop." Yi Qinghan was delighted when he heard this and shouted. Zhu Yi, who was beside him, couldn't stop him in time. She could only sigh deeply. With this shout from Yi Qinghan, the good situation that she had racked her brains to build up was completely destroyed. It was just that. Yi Qinghan's nature was like this. He valued relationships and righteousness. If he wasn't like this, would he still be Yi Qinghan? Would she still be so infatuated with him? Zhu Yi's mood became incomparably conflicted. As expected, a light flashed in Foxy's eyes, and she immediately ordered the Qilin half-beastman to retreat. She shouted, "I will do what I say. Let my people leave first and I will stay here as a hostage. As long as you don't chase after me, I will naturally let your ancestor go after 3 days. If you dare to chase after me, bring the people away." The Qilin half-beastman and Foxy exchanged a few glances, and then immediately led all the other half-beastmen to retreat. After a moment, they disappeared into the vast white fog. Under Zhu Yi's lead, Yi Qinghan and Foxy confronted each other from afar. Although Zhu Yi felt that Foxy seemed to be faintly plotting something, when she saw the stubborn and determined look in Yi Qinghan's eyes, she didn't know how to persuade him. Foxy used a bit of her strength to help heal the beast god. She held the beast god's head tightly with one hand, and stared at everyone with an extremely vigilant expression. Once Yi Qinghan made a move, she would immediately act. But in her heart she sneered, "Humph. 3 days, as long as I can drag this on for 3 days, His Majesty will arrive. His Majesty has such powerful strength and soul, and he even has a supreme spiritual treasure. When that time comes, the Immortal World Army will definitely be annihilated. Emperor Han Yi, this concubine will definitely make you wish you were dead yet unable to live." Chapter 1352. This young man who comprehended the unyielding path is actually so loyal? Or is he so stupid? Because of one person he gambled with so many lives. Rationally, he should have attacked earlier to keep all the half-beastmen here. But emotionally, what he did was right. Why am I feeling conflicted because of him? She stood on the peak of Mount Pan and frowned slightly. Her beautiful eyes flashed. Finally, her expression turned cold as she turned and walked into her small wooden hut. Pan Xing looked at Pan Xi in shock and frowned strangely. He didn't care and continued to observe the situation below. Could it be that half-beastman with snake head? His strength is among the top few in this plain battlefield. When he comes and starts a war with the divine realm, we will know once we see him. Pan Xing said calmly. He turned his gaze and started to observe the attacks and divine abilities of the experts in the other planes. Why am I so concerned about an ordinary person recently? I control the reincarnation of life in Pangaea. Life and death are determined by fate. So what if he lives? So what if he dies? What does it have to do with me? I actually secretly reminded him. What's wrong with me? In Pan Xi's palace, Pan Xi's eyes were filled with confusion. She sat alone in the dreamlike purple palace and murmured to herself. Her beautiful eyes were filled with conflict and struggle. No, he isn't an ordinary person. He died a long time ago, but his soul descended to the divine realm. He even comprehended the path of supremacy. He is someone who has surpassed the reincarnation of life. Should I help him? Am I doing the right thing? Rationally, I shouldn't help anyone. But emotionally, I really want to help him. How can I be emotional? In everyone's heart, there was an angel and a devil lurking. Clearly, the high and mighty Pan Xi who controlled the reincarnation of billions of lives in Pangaea was quietly fighting with the angel and devil in her heart. She didn't know that as she fought and struggled in her heart, she looked more and more like a person, a woman. Yi Qinghan was also struggling. Great Emperor Foxy must be plotting something. She's stalling for time. There are definitely more than these few 9th-grade Supremes in the Beastmen plane. When I was fleeing back then, I sensed at least 5 or 6 powerful auras. She's waiting for reinforcements. Zhu Yi's words echoed in his ears. Yi Qinghan knew very well that Zhu Yi's guess was very likely correct. But what do you expect him to do? Kill this fox princess? Watch the beast god die? Would it work? Perhaps exchanging the beast god's life for a 9th-grade supreme martial artist could reduce the number of peak experts in the Beastmen dimension, and reduce the strength of the Beastmen dimension's next attack. But how could he do such a thing? If he did that, would he still be Yi Qinghan? What was the point of living if he lost his heart and his true nature? He cultivated, struggled, worked hard, was so crazy and was so persistent. What was it for? It was all because of some insistence in his heart. Although this insistence might be wrong, he still persisted. He looked around at the worried eyes of Zhu Yi, the Ice Queen, and the Wind Moon monarchs, at the complicated expressions of the 5 from Gong Tian, and at the fanatical gazes of the 1 million Yi family soldiers. Finally, he made a decision. Zhu Yi, take the points and evacuate with everyone. There are 7 days left, which is enough for a month. Right now, almost all the powerful armies have gone to the bloody Gobi Desert. You only need to delay for 7 days and you can return safely. Zhu Yi looked at the spatial ring that Yi Qinghan handed over and listened to his telepathic transmission. Her body trembled and her face turned extremely pale. She transmitted anxiously, "Great Emperor, what are you doing? What's the point of doing this? You can't save the beast god. Instead, you'll cause the death of everyone in the divine realm." Yi Qinghan shook his head and smiled. No. I've thought about it for a long time. Even if I'm discovered, Pan Xing will only kill me. Back then he could have destroyed the divine realm, but he didn't. This shows that he has his reservations. He's not the only god emperor. He doesn't dare to act recklessly. Maybe I won't die. So you should leave first. Once you leave, I can fight with all my might. Yi Qinghan thought for a long time. Although the old man in sackcloth said some strange things, he didn't seem to be hostile towards him. Moreover, the old man in sackcloth was the first person to see through his strange soul. In addition, the purple-robed young lady seemed to want to protect him. So Yi Qinghan decided to take a gamble. This gamble was not entirely for the beast god. It was for Zhu Yi and everyone in the Divine Realm army, including the billions of people in the Divine Realm. There was no doubt that the Beastmen plane was powerful. If he left with them, Foxy would definitely follow. He didn't dare to watch the beast god die and kill Foxy. So if he left, the Divine Realm would be caught up by the Beastmen plane sooner or later. Since he had decided to take action, Zhu Yi and the others wouldn't be able to do much. It was better to let them leave with the points. At least if he died, the Divine Realm could still win and wouldn't be attacked by the other planes, right? No. Great Emperor, Yi won't let you do stupid things. He won't leave you. Not even if I die. Zhu Yi shook her head continuously. Her expression was unusually firm and decisive. Stupid things? In life if you can't be crazy for once, what's there to be happy about? Yi Qinghan grinned but his eyes turned cold. His expression was even more determined than Zhu Yi's. He said in a low voice, Yi, I have decided. If you don't leave, I swear that I will never love you again, never look at you again. I, Yi Qinghan, have wandered my entire life. How many people have wanted my life? Aren't I still alive and well? Believe me. I am a man who can create miracles. Great Emperor, great Emperor. Zhu Yi howled in pain, and 2 streaks of tears flowed down from the corners of her eyes. Yi Qinghan said that he wouldn't love her and never look at her again. This was worse than letting her die. She looked at Yi Qinghan's determined gaze in a daze and chose to respect his decision. The order was passed down. Gong Tian and the rest were overjoyed, but the million Yi family soldiers were as silent as a mountain. They did not say a single word. They would never question Yi Qinghan's orders. They would only obey unconditionally. Great Emperor Yu. On the contrary, Ice Queen's face flushed red. Her ice-cold eyes became watery. She sent a voice transmission but didn't know what to say. Gongtian, there is no need to say anymore. If I die, I will remove your soul contract and protect them. Yi Qinghan nodded towards Ice Queen and smiled. He saw Gongtian's eyes shine like he wanted to say something. He sent a voice transmission over. Gongtian was delighted once more. He cupped his fists towards Yi Qinghan and brought his men back to the encampment. Under Foxy's weird expression, the people from the god world started to gather back. Only Yi Qinghan was left standing in front of her. Then the people from the god world actually started to retreat. Not long later they were all gone. Emperor Hanya, what are you doing? I am warning you, don't play any tricks. Foxy said solemnly. The hand that was grabbing the beast god's head tightened. A black destructive power wrapped around her hand. As long as she moved slightly, the beast god's head would instantly shatter and he would die. Yi Qinghan didn't bother about Foxy. He used his divine sense to scan the people from the god world. They were all moving quickly and orderly. Not long later they disappeared from his divine sense. His entire body relaxed. He lazily placed the slaughter god blade on his shoulder and waited for an hour. When the people from the god world were far away, he looked at Foxy and smiled. I didn't do anything. Don't worry, I am not interested in a half-human, half-beast transvestite like you. However, if you don't release him after I count to 3, I don't mind using my slaughter god blade to stab you and let you have a good time. Chapter 1353. Panshi, why do you keep going in and out? You've been acting strangely lately. Pan Xing was like a sword, releasing a murderous aura all the time. Every move he made was filled with murderous intent. Looking at Pan Shi, who kept going in and out, he couldn't help but squint his eyes and ask. Pan Shi didn't pay attention to Pan Xing. She tapped her feet lightly and took a step forward. Her body pierced through the void and flashed 10,000 meters away. In the blink of an eye, she stood at the edge of the cliff. Then she tilted her head slightly and said coldly, I don't want to meddle in your business. Don't meddle in mine either. Humph. Pan Xing snorted coldly. He couldn't turn his head away, but his murderous intent became even stronger. Pan Shi turned around with a strange expression. Looking at the vast expanse of whiteness in the distance, her watery eyes suddenly became more resolute. You dare to attack me? You don't believe that I will kill your Grand Elder? Foxy looked at the murderous face in front of her and felt a little panicked. The Heavenly Realm's army left, leaving only the man in front of her. However, Foxy felt even more terrified. She had an inexplicable feeling that if Emperor Han Yi wanted to kill her, she would definitely die without a complete corpse in one move. Yi Qinghan's smile became even stronger. He said faintly, Of course I believe you. I also believe that my Grand Elder won't be able to live. When your army arrives, he will also die. So I'm prepared to use his life in exchange for yours. I think it's a good deal to trade a 9th grade superior for a 9th grade supreme martial artist. Foxy trembled when she saw Yi Qinghan's eyes that seemed to be able to see through everything. She became even more panicked. He knew that she was stalling for time to wait for reinforcements. This meant that he was even more confident in arranging for the Heavenly Realm's army to retreat. For a moment Foxy's mind was in a mess. She couldn't think of any way to stall Yi Qinghan for a few days. I'll think about it. Foxy decided to stall for time. She forced herself to calm down and started to analyze. She couldn't hand him over. If she did, she would definitely die. If she didn't hand it over and Yi Qinghan believed that his ancestor wouldn't be able to live, she would still die. If he delayed, the other party would know that a large army was coming from behind, and would not foolishly wait for a few days. Foxy felt as if she had fallen into a dead end. No matter how she looked at it, she would have died. She started to regret retreating with the Qilin orc. He thought he was smart and wanted to delay the Celestial Realm army for a few days, but he ended up getting himself into a dead end. Just then the beast god in her hand suddenly let out a cry of pain. Although Foxy was thinking she had split a bit of her divine sense to lock onto the beast god and Yi Qinghan. Of course he knew immediately. He also knew that this was the time limit of his bewitchment spell. The beast deity had woken up and he had to use the bewitchment again. Ancestor. When Yi Qinghan saw the beast deity crying out in pain, his eyes also revealed a look of pain. The faint smile on his face disappeared and was replaced with a look of urgency. Murderous intent surged from his body, and he revealed a ferocious expression. He roared at Foxy, "If anything happens to my ancestor, I will tear you into pieces." When Foxy saw Yi Qinghan's expression, heard his words and heard his sharp murderous intent, she wasn't afraid. Instead she laughed out loud. The worry, fear and conflict from before had all disappeared. The angrier Yi Qinghan was, the more anxious he was, and the more murderous he was, the more it meant that he cared about the beast deity. In other words, as long as the beast deity didn't die, she would definitely be safe. Yi Qinghan's various plans, his calm expression, his threatening tone, and the fact that he had pointed out Foxy's delaying tactic had made Foxy feel as if she was in a desperate situation. However, all these plans and hard work had all gone to waste with a single cry of pain from the beast deity. Foxy's smile was like a flower. She had a foxy face, but she smiled with the charm of a peerless beauty. She said softly, "Don't worry, your ancestor is fine. Of course, if you don't cooperate, I will have to die with your ancestor." When she finished speaking, Foxy's eyes flashed a few times, and a green light shot toward the beast deity. The beast deity's body trembled violently and he regained consciousness. Meanwhile, Foxy quietly turned the beast deity's head around to look at Yi Qinghan. The beast deity saw Yi Qinghan at first glance and was instantly ecstatic. "Bulhan. Xiao." Foxy moved her hand and turned the beast deity's body around again. Then a green light flashed in her eyes, and a look of fear flashed across the beast deity's eyes. Then he became confused. "I'll ask you one last time, are you going to let her go?" Yi Qinghan's heart was burning with anxiety and he howled in pain. However, he had to pretend that he was about to attack. His eyes flashed and it seemed like he was about to use a soul skill. Do it. Let's see if your soul skill is faster or if the soul thread I left in your ancestor's mind is faster. I can guarantee that the moment I'm hit by your soul skill, I'll immediately use the soul thread to destroy your ancestor's soul. Foxy was not afraid at all. She had already calculated that with Yi Qinghan's personality, he would definitely not dare to attack. She looked at Yi Qinghan calmly and her eyes were full of mockery. As expected, the killing intent on Yi Qinghan's body gradually faded, and he sighed in his heart. He had originally had the upper hand, but now, because of the beast deity's unexpected cry of pain, he was at an absolute disadvantage again. Man proposes, God disposes. Foxy smiled and she smiled like an old fox. No, she was an old fox to begin with. She said leisurely, "I can let your ancestor go and I can even swear an oath to the divine emperor. How about we make a bet? Let's bet whether my people will arrive in 3 days. If they can't, I will let him go after 3 days. If they arrive in time, I will also let him go. In other words, no matter what, I will protect your ancestor's safety. Of course, your safety will depend on your luck and strength. If you have the ability to escape or kill us, I will accept my fate. How about it?" Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up, and it was so hot that Yao Ji did not dare to look at him directly. Foxy was very smart and she did not make any stupid conditions. This condition was very tempting and it looked very fair on the surface. Yi Qinghan hesitated for a moment before keeping the slaughter god blade. He laughed angrily and said, "All right. I want to see if the strongest martial artist in the Beastman dimension can take my life. Swear it." I swear to the Divine Emperor that no matter what, I will protect this person's safety. If he is killed by the martial artists in the Beastman dimension, I am willing to be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. Foxy did not hesitate at all as she swore in front of Mount Pan. It was not important whether a 9th-grade beast god died or not. What was important was that Yi Qinghan was willing to stay. Yi Qinghan had 2 supreme spiritual treasures on him. She would be able to answer to the snake-headed beastman. Yi Qinghan nodded, sheathed his blade and stood upright. After making such a vicious oath in front of Mount Pan, the beast god was definitely safe. The 2 wishes he had left behind were to delay Foxy, let the Divine World Army leave safely and save the beast god. At this moment he had basically completed them. Yi Qinghan felt his whole body relax. He no longer had to worry about anything. The Divine Emperor that was suppressing him so much that he could not breathe had also been tossed aside. Now he only wanted to fight with all his might. He wanted to see how powerful the power of cold was after it evolved. As for whether he would live or die, he would leave it to the heavens. Foxy's oath attracted the attention of the black-robed youth on Mount Pan. Pan Xing turned around with interest. After a while he laughed loudly and said, Interesting. Someone actually made a Divine Emperor blood oath in front of me? And this great Perfection Soul Realm martial artist is actually so arrogant? He wants to fight against so many martial artists in the Beastman dimension alone? 3 days. 3 days later this snake-headed beastman will definitely arrive. A great Perfection Soul Realm martial artist fighting against 5 9th-grade Supreme Martial Artists? And a group of 9th-grade Supreme Martial Artists? Interesting. Chapter 1354. Oh no. Why is he so stubborn? Didn't he receive my message? That's impossible. How could he be so stupid? Is he ready to die? Pan Xing laughed loudly. In fact, Pan Shi had been paying attention to Yi Qinghan's situation ever since she came out. As a Divine Emperor Supremacy, she was in charge of the reincarnation of Panjia. Although her strength wasn't as domineering as Pan Xing's, her supernatural power was superior. As long as she wanted to know something about the planar battlefield, she could easily know it. It seemed that Yi Qinghan wasn't going to listen to her and was ready to fight. Although she didn't think that Yi Qinghan's life or death had anything to do with her, seeing Yi Qinghan being so impulsive still made her angry. If she hadn't warned Yi Qinghan before, she wouldn't have been so angry. But now, she felt that everything she had done and worried for so long had been in vain. She was worried about Yi Qinghan's life and death, but Yi Qinghan didn't care about himself. How could she not be angry? She wanted to turn around and go back to her cabin, but her feet seemed to be rooted to the ground. She couldn't move at all. In the end she stood there resentfully. Her beautiful eyes flickered and her expression was complicated. No one knew what she was thinking about. Quick. On the left side of the Golden Dragon Plain, in a swamp that stretched as far as the eye could see, a majestic cultivator with a flat snake head shouted loudly. The snake-headed beastman was extremely annoyed. These junior commanders were all trash. Their speed was extremely slow and their divine senses were extremely weak. If they weren't careful, they would be trapped and transported away. However, he couldn't ignore these junior commanders. Some of these people could very likely break through to the 9th rank commander level. If they all died, no one in the Beastmen plane would be able to break through to level 9 for a long time. Moreover, so many commanders had died in this planar war. There were too many restrictions in the swamp. Half of his level 9 subordinates were sent to Foxy to stall Yi Qinghan. As for the remaining half, they could only find a safe path and let these little commanders pass slowly. Finally, amidst the furious roars of the snake-headed orc, only a few dozen of the thousands of small commanders were accidentally teleported away. The rest were all safe. However, several days had already passed. The snake-headed orc let out a sigh of relief, and a red light flashed in its blood-red triangular eyes. It waved its hand and ordered, "Everyone advance at full speed. Commander, send a group to scout ahead and mark the places with restrictions. Hurry to the Divine World as fast as you can." More than 20 rank 9 commanders immediately flew forward. Their divine senses were activated and they began to investigate. The half-blood beastman army quickly moved forward. Everyone held their breath, afraid of angering the snake-headed half-blood beastmen. Report. After walking for half a day, a half-beast commander quickly flew back and reported, Your Majesty Qi and the rest have returned. Bastard, ask him to come here. The snake-headed orc's heart sank when he heard it was the Qilin half-beast. Qi and Foxy went to stall the people from the divine world together, and now they suddenly brought someone back? The snake-headed orc thought that this was definitely not good news. As expected, the Qilin brought back extremely bad news. Another rank 9 orc supreme had fallen, and more than 10 rank 9 commanders had died. Foxy insisted on staying behind to stall the divine world. Now her life and death were uncertain. Bang. The snake-headed orc's powerful fist, shining with black light, smashed directly at the Qilin's head, forcefully smashing him into the ground. The tyrannical aura enveloped all the half-beastmen. Countless low-level small commanders were so frightened that they shivered and crawled on the ground. The snake-headed orc seemed to have not vented his anger. He lifted his leg and stomped heavily, smashing the Qilin's head completely into the ground. He let out a few long breaths before cursing, "Crawl out if you're not dead yet." As expected, the Qilin stretched out 2 hands covered in scales and crawled out with difficulty. The snake-headed orc still had a sense of propriety and did not kill him. This Qilin was also very cooperative, allowing him to be smashed half to death in front of all the powerhouses of the Beastmen dimension. He did not resist or complain at all. To be able to make a rank 9 supreme martial artist willingly be beaten half to death, and even in front of such a subordinate, the snake-headed orc's strength and ferocity were evident. All lower rank 9 commanders, lead the small commanders and slowly rush to the divine world. If you encounter any powerhouses from the other dimensions, do not attack. Survival is the most important. Upper rank 9 commanders and senior commanders, all follow me at full speed. I will not leave a single corpse in the divine world with an intact body. The snake-headed orc's tyrannical roar resounded in the wilderness. That roar was like that of a king among ferocious beasts, causing all the half-beastmen to feel a chill. After that, all the 9th grade upper and 9th grade supreme beings, which added up to nearly 30 people, emitted a brutal aura at the same time. Following the snake-headed half-beast man, they turned into streaks of afterimages and shot toward the plane of the immortal realm. The upper rank 9 and rank 9 supreme martial artists rushed at full speed. Without the burden of the small commanders, their divine senses were extremely strong, and they did not have to worry about the restrictions in the plane battlefield. In just a day and a half they arrived near the Golden Dragon Plain. From afar, the Golden Dragon deity sensed nearly 30 powerful auras rushing toward them. She thought that they were here to attack their plane. Her body trembled in fear and she immediately fled toward the back of the stronghold. The lower golden dragons were even worse off. All of them prostrated on the ground, shivering. They did not even dare to run away. They closed their eyes and prepared to die. Of course, the snake-headed orc didn't care about these small fries. He did not even look at them. He only swept his divine sense to one side, and then led his people past and flew away. The divine world plane. They are going to attack the despicable divine world plane. A few golden dragon powerhouses detected the situation and were instantly delighted. They had no hope of avenging the female golden dragon deity. They could not ask for more powerhouses to go and find trouble with the divine world plane. Of course, after secretly rejoicing, they immediately led their people and quietly retreated. They did not want to be implicated in a fight between immortals. Huff. Yi Qinghan looked into the distance and let out a long sigh. It seemed like he was very unlucky this time. The reinforcements from the Beastmen plane only took slightly more than 2 days to arrive. He had lost the gamble. Let them go. Your people are here. Yi Qinghan stood up and held the slaughter god's saber. His whole body felt relaxed and he had an aura of someone who had no fear of death. There was no other way. He was very clear that even if he could win this battle against the Beastmen plane, he would probably die in Pan Xing's hands. Moreover, although he felt that his strength had doubled, he was not confident that he could fight against so many people alone. He did not believe that such a powerful Beastmen plane did not have a supreme spiritual treasure. Zhu Yi and the rest should have escaped far away, right? In a few more days it will be 1 month. At this moment, all the powerful armies in the plain battlefield should have gone to the Scarlet Gobi Desert. They should be very safe. This fox demon's position in the Beastmen plane should not be low. Old ancestor should be safe. In that case, let's fight with all our strength. As long as we kill all the powerhouses from the Beastmen plane, even if Pan Xing wants to take my life, Xiao He should not have a problem. Before Xiao He evolved, he was already half-corporeal. After this evolution, he should be able to transform. Alright, for Xiao He, I must win. Kill, kill, kill. Yi Qinghan lowered his head and caressed the slaughter god's saber. A faint smile appeared on his face as he softly muttered. When he reached the last 3 words, his voice suddenly became louder, and each word was louder than the previous one. Furthermore, every time he shouted the word kill, his aura would increase. Kill. When he shouted the last word, his aura had already reached its peak. He slowly raised his head and his gaze was as sharp as a blade. Fox Ji's body trembled and she took 3 steps back. He seemed to have transformed into a lone wolf, howling with all his might as he prepared for his final counterattack before he died. Chapter 1355. Pick him up. He's been hit by my enchanting spell and is now in a daze. He'll recover in 3 days. Don't worry. Since I've sworn the Divine Emperor blood oath, I won't hurt him. Fox Lady looked at the 20 or so powerful auras in the distance. She was overjoyed. She retreated tens of thousands of meters and threw Beast God at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan caught Beast God with both hands and used his divine sense to check. He was relieved to find that there was only a trace of energy swimming in Beast God's soul ocean and no harm had been done to it. He also believed that Fox Lady would not sacrifice her life for an upper 9th grade martial artist. Breaking the Divine Emperor blood oath in the dimensional battlefield was like playing with her life. In the white fog in the distance, nearly 30 figures were faintly discernible. The black airflow around Fox Lady was also flowing slowly. Yi Qinghan did not retreat even half a step. She carried the Beast God on her back, and her origin energy quickly emerged from her back, forming an origin armor that protected the Beast God. Then he held his saber with one hand and looked calmly at the approaching figures. 10,000 meters, 9,000 meters, 8,000 meters. 5 9th grade supreme martial artists. 23 upper 9th grade martial artists. Good timing. Yi Qinghan silently calculated the distance between them. When they were 6,000 meters apart, Yi Qinghan moved. His eyes lit up and a strange light shone. The Soul Dreamland was the first to be activated. All the upper 9th grade martial artists were enveloped in it. How terrifying was the soul skill of a great perfection soul master. The 27 people who were rushing over suddenly stopped. Even the 4 9th grade supreme martial artists stopped. Obviously, they were all hit by Yi Qinghan's soul skill and fell into the Soul Dreamland. Humph! A cold snort sounded, followed by 2 rays of red light. Instantly, the nearby sky was enveloped by the red light. The strange light in Yi Qinghan's eyes immediately disappeared, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. He's also a soul master? No wonder he led these upper 9th grade martial artists to come here. Originally, Yi Qinghan was puzzled. The Qilin half-beastman should have told the powerhouses of the half-beastman plane about his powerful soul skill. Why would he bring a group of rank 9s to die? It seemed that this snake-headed beastman was extremely conceited in his mastery of the soul. After throwing the slaughter god's saber into the War Emperor Palace, Yi Qinghan closed his eyes. His pair of slender hands started to dance around as his aura became stronger and stronger. The fire god battle armor lit up with a red light, and the fire god's heart on his forehead started to flash. His black hair fluttered without any wind and a faint white fog surrounded his body. From afar, it looked like an ancient god had descended and was unparalleled. Emperor Han Yi, you're the one who killed 4 of my commanders, right? Your soul is indeed powerful, but with me here your soul skills are trash. What other tricks do you have? Use them. This seat will let you die wholeheartedly convinced today. The snake-headed beastman led a group of powerful half-beastmen and stood beside Foxy. As he looked at the imposing Yi Qinghan, he was not in a hurry to attack. He stood there proudly and locked his blood-red triangular eyes on Yi Qinghan as he sneered. Oh! Yi Qinghan, who was originally prepared to secretly circulate his cold energy and fight to the death to kill as many as he could, suddenly opened his eyes and laughed. He suddenly opened his eyes and smiled. He looked at the snake-headed beastman and laughed. You're the commander of the beastman plane, right? You want me to die wholeheartedly convinced? Why don't we fight one-on-one? If you can kill me alone, I will die wholeheartedly convinced. Do you have the guts? Foxy had always been afraid of Yi Qinghan. She quickly said in a low voice, Your Majesty, you can't. The snake-headed beastman hesitated. Yi Qinghan's soul skill that scared the Qilin beastman so much that he couldn't fight had been easily broken by him. He just wanted to use his words to boost morale. When he saw Yi Qinghan's attitude and his most trusted Foxy's reminder, he couldn't help but feel vexed. If he had known earlier, he would have used Yi Qinghan's soul skill to surround and kill him. Haha. Yi Qinghan looked up to the sky and laughed. His face was full of mockery. Although he wasn't as tall as the beastman, he gave off a feeling that he was looking down on the world. He said coldly, "Your Majesty? Your Majesty has guts. If you don't dare to fight one-on-one, then don't talk big. I'm here alone and you have dozens of peak experts, but no one dares to fight one-on-one with me?" The ancestors once said that the half-beastman plane is filled with a bunch of cowardly bastards that are neither human nor beast. It seems like it's true. You fine. I'll fight with you. Everyone else just watch. Foxy cursed inwardly. As expected, the snake-headed beastman roared angrily and shot forward. He actually fell for Yi Qinghan's provocation. The rest of the half-beastman experts heard about Yi Qinghan's tyrannical strength. They also knew that Leopard 1 and the other 3 had died at his hands. At this moment they felt a sense of relief. Idiot, if His Majesty dies, will you all still be alive? Foxy cursed inwardly and made preparations. If the snake-headed beastman couldn't win, she would immediately charge forward and dismember Yi Qinghan. The snake-headed beastman was the strongest expert in the half-beastman plane. He was one of the strongest experts in the hundreds of planes. He was about to start an earth-shattering battle with the peak expert of the divine world, the #1 genius in history, Yi Qinghan. On the peak of Mount Pan, a purple-robed woman was fighting another battle in her heart. Idiot, this idiot really wants to die. He actually wants to fight. What should I do? What should I do? Should I help him? Am I really going to watch him die in front of me? He's a genius that only appears once in several epochs. Pan Huang said that the next manager of Pan Realm, the Divine Emperor Supreme, will be born soon. It seems like it's very likely to be him. What if he dies? Won't the next Divine Emperor Supreme appear? That's not right. Pan Huang has the ability to see through the heavens and earth. Since he said that the next Divine Emperor Supreme will be born, it means that this person won't die, right? Then why am I worried? That's not right either. Given this person's situation, even if he doesn't die at the hands of the half-beastman plane's experts, he will die at Pan Xing's hands. Pan Huang won't care about anything in Pan Realm. Then if Pan Xing wants to kill him, who can stop him? Could it be that Pan Huang predicted that I would save him? That's right. Pan Huang said that I would have a heart tribulation. Could it be this person? Recently, because of this person, my Dao heart has been unstable. Turns out that Pan Huang predicted everything. Alright, since that's the case, I'll help him cover up this time and avoid Pan Xing's detection. As for the experts of this half-beastman plane, I don't care. If you die at the hands of the half-beastman, it means that you won't be the next Divine Emperor Supreme. Pan Xi kept muttering to herself. What was extremely strange was that Pan Xing didn't seem to notice. It was clear that Pan Xi's abilities were much stronger than Pan Xing's. In just an instant, Pan Xi's mind went through a series of internal struggles before she finally made a decision. One of her ivory-like lily-white hands quietly began to form a series of strange hand seals. The moment she formed the hand seals, her entire body instantly relaxed. A sweet smile that could enchant the hearts of all men in the world appeared on her face. It was so beautiful that it was heartbreaking. Chapter 1356. Why is the battle over here so intense? How could it tear such a powerful spatial crack? Could it be that the one who broke through the barrier of Pangaea is one of them? Pan Xing had been paying attention to Yi Qinghan's side. At this moment he suddenly raised his eyebrows and swept his gaze over to the Scarlet Gobi Desert. He saw the 2 9th-grade supreme martial artists fighting. Suddenly their strength increased greatly, and the intensity of their attacks became unbelievably fierce. In the Scarlet Gobi Desert below, a 1,000-meter-tall beastman was fighting fiercely with a huge demonic beast. Both the man and the beast's eyes were bloodshot. Obviously they were completely bewitched. They wouldn't wake up until they killed everyone in the Scarlet Gobi Desert or died. That beastman looked ferocious and terrifying. The brown hair all over his body stood up, and his body shone with a golden light. He was an expert who cultivated the metal element. With every step he took, the ground below shook. A pair of huge fists whistled in the wind. Every time he punched, cracks appeared in the space. That demonic beast was also hundreds of meters tall. It stood upright on both legs and its aura reached the sky. It was comparable to the legendary ancient ferocious beast. Its whole body was covered in yellow scales. It looked like a pangolin, but its head was round. It had wings, horns, and a 1,000-meter-long tail. It mainly relied on that tail to attack. Its tail was covered in blue light. Obviously, it was a powerful demonic beast that cultivated the water element. The man and the beast fought. Their speed was as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged hundreds of moves in mid-air. As the man and the beast attacked, cracks that were tens of thousands of meters long appeared in the sky. They kept tearing and healing. It was as if the void was torn by the man and the beast, leaving many scars in the sky. It was extremely terrifying. The man and the beast's eyes were bloodshot. They stared at each other. The aura they emitted made the low-level humans and beasts at the side crawl on the ground in fear. Occasionally, some unlucky warriors and demonic beasts were hit by their attacks and turned into minced meat. Kill. 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 In the distance, an upper-rank 9 mantis man's eyes were similarly blood-red. It was obvious that he had killed too many, and the bloodthirsty aura in the blood-colored Gobi Desert had been possessed. At this moment, the ferocious aura of the man and the beast had triggered the evil in its mind. It roared and charged toward the man and the beast. However, before he could even get close, he was swept by the terrifying magical beast's tail and instantly turned into a bloody mess. Not even a divinity crystal was left behind. The beastmen and magical beasts in the surroundings looked at the commanders of the two races in confusion. How did they suddenly become so powerful? However, the two groups immediately became excited, and they began to search for experts from other planes nearby to fight fiercely. The strength of this man and beast is strange. Logically speaking, they shouldn't possess essence energy. It was impossible for them to have such a terrifying attack unless they had obtained elemental energy. However, the two of them possess essence energy, so it's very possible for them to break through the barrier of Plate Realm. Pan Xing's sword-like eyebrows were tightly knitted. He stared at the battle between the two and sank into deep thought. As for the battle between Yi Qinghan and the snake-headed beastman, he had long forgotten about it. This man and beast are already possessed. Even if I don't do anything, they will still kill each other. I'm not breaking the rules. Pan Xi's watery eyes swept over the bloody Gobi Desert. She sighed deeply and then looked at the stronghold in the divine realm. She shook her head slightly and said, "Young man, I can only help you this much. As for the battle between you and the beastmen, it's none of my business whether you live or die in the end. Whether you can become the next divine emperor or not, it's all up to your fate." After saying that, Pan Xi didn't care anymore. She smiled sweetly and flashed into the wooden hut. The door of the wooden hut was quietly closed again. Boom. How can you be a match for me with your meager strength? Now you're convinced, aren't you? This supreme spiritual treasure is indeed powerful. It's not dead even after taking so many attacks from me? Let's see how long you can resist. Die. While the battle in the bloody Gobi Desert was extremely fierce, the battle in the stronghold in the divine realm was extremely tragic. As the snake-headed beastman's figure flashed again and again, a pair of strong hands covered in black scales smashed down. Yi Qinghan's figure was sent flying again and again, smashing heavily on the ground and creating deep pits in the mountain peaks of the stronghold in the divine realm. Yi Qinghan's situation was not good. The first attack of his soul-destroying attack made the snake-headed beastman's body tremble, but it was instantly dispersed by the snake-headed beastman's powerful soul attack. Yi Qinghan was in a passive situation. The first soul-destroying attack didn't succeed. Although he used soul-destroying attacks again and again, the snake-headed beastman had long been prepared for it. There was no lethality at all. Yi Qinghan used the power of cold and waved his small palms, but they were easily defeated by the destructive power of the snake-headed beastman. Boom. The snake-headed beastman punched again with a fist the size of a casserole. The black airflow in his hand was drawn and flew out, forming a black fist shadow composed entirely of the power of destruction. As soon as the black fist shadow appeared, cracks appeared in the space, and layers of vibrations spread far away. The black fist shadow flashed and shot at Yi Qinghan's chest. At this moment, Yi Qinghan just happened to fly out of the deep pit in the mountain peak with great difficulty. Seeing the black fist shadow flying at him again, a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. He activated the power of cold and wanted to escape quickly. However, the black fist shadow was too fast and he was once again smashed into the mountain peak. Suddenly the mountain peak trembled and the earth cracked. Mud and stones flew everywhere. A loud sound broke through the sky and did not stop for a long time. Is that all you've got? You still want to fight me one-on-one? Apart from your soul attack, you're just a piece of trash. If it weren't for this supreme spiritual treasure protecting you, I could kill you in one move. Huh. The snake-headed beastman saw Yi Qinghan crawl out of the deep pit again. His face was pale and half of his bones were broken. His eyes were filled with fear and disbelief. The beast god on his back was also covered in blood. He laughed proudly in midair, then turned to the beastman commander in the distance and sneered, "Is this the incomparably powerful peak martial artist you were talking about? Why can't you resist a blow from me?" The beastman commanders in the distance all showed mocking expressions when they saw Yi Qinghan being so easily defeated. Especially the commander and the Qilin beastman who had followed Foxy just now. They heaved a sigh of relief but also felt a little ashamed. It seemed that the commander of the divine realm had no other good points besides having a strong soul. Look, once his soul attack failed, he was no different from a piece of trash. That's not right. Foxy shook her head. She had felt Yi Qinghan's aura before and it was definitely not this weak. If Yi Qinghan only had a strong soul, he would not have stayed behind to die. She felt that something was wrong but she could not figure it out. It was only when she saw a hint of mockery in Yi Qinghan's eyes that she came to her senses and shouted, "Your Majesty, be careful." It's too late. Yi Qinghan, who looked like he was on the verge of death, suddenly recovered from his injuries. His body also surged with a towering aura. His eyes flashed and he activated the strongest soul destroyer. 10 God Slayer spears pierced out of the void and turned into flickering shadows, shooting toward the snake-headed beastman. At the same time, the heart of the fire god on his forehead finally lit up. Chapter 1357. The snake-headed half-beastman was shocked. He turned his head and felt billions of golden soul threads surging into his mind. They were actually 10 times stronger than the soul-destroying attack from before. Although his soul was strong, he was still shocked. That wasn't important. What was important was that he felt 10 spears with the power to destroy heaven and earth shooting towards him. The power of this attack was not much weaker than his strongest attack. The golden soul threads were attacking him crazily. The snake-headed half-beast man could not ignore them. Otherwise, if his soul was in chaos, he would not be able to resist the 10 Godslayer spears even if he did not collapse. He could only grit his teeth and use all his strength to resist the attacks of the golden soul threads. At the same time, he flipped his left hand and a black flag appeared in his hand. A terrifying aura came from the black flag. It was a paragon's spiritual treasure. Your Majesty. Foxy was very loyal to the snake-headed half-beast man. When she saw Yi Qinghan take out the Godslayer spear, she immediately rushed forward and gathered her destructive power. He was about to attack. Something's wrong. Halfway there, Foxy suddenly cried out in alarm because she realized that Yi Qinghan had disappeared. Since he had disappeared, his control over his attacks would definitely be weakened. His attacks would not be able to cause any fatal damage to the snake-headed half-beast man. He pretended to be weak and was attacked for a long time. He was almost crushed to death. After acting for so long and setting up such a huge trap, he could not have done it in vain. He must have some ulterior motive. Since his target was not the snake-headed half-beast man, it must be the group of low-level commanders behind him. As expected, Foxy turned her head, but she realized it was already too late. Yi Qinghan's figure abruptly appeared above the heads of the 20 or so half-beastmen captains behind her. Her eyes flickered with a strange light as she activated her terrifying soul illusion soul skill once again, which also contained a soul annihilation attack. At the same time, a huge palm appeared in midair. It was a palm that caused her soul to tremble. It was a palm that was twice as powerful as the 10 Godslayer spears. At this moment, all the upper grade 9 commanders were instantly trapped in the soul illusion soul skill. One of the upper grade 9 commanders was also attacked by the soul-destroying attack. All of them stood rooted to the ground in a daze. The huge palm in midair had already smashed down. Boom! There was a loud sound that made Fox Girl's soul tremble. A giant mushroom cloud rose up, and a bottomless crater appeared on the ground. A thick smell of blood filled the air. 2 figures flew out of the deep pit in a sorry state, but Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up again. Then another 10 god-slayers' spears pierced through the void. It shot towards the 2 heavily injured Beastman 9th grade Supremes and started spinning crazily in the air. Bang! Foxy watched as the 2 pierced bodies fell down powerlessly. She watched as the 2 7-colored divine crystals floated into the air and fell down powerlessly. A look of despair appeared on her face. She had the chance to attack just now, but she couldn't even muster up the courage to do so. They could only stare blankly at the fiery red figure in the sky, killing the experts of the Beastman plane one by one. She then looked into the distance at the snake-headed Beastman that had only just gotten rid of the Golden Soul Threat's attack and defeated the god-slaying spear. She muttered weakly, "Is he still human? Is this an attack that a martial artist can use? It's over. The Beastman plane is completely over. Despicable and shameless human. Is this what you call a one-on-one fight? I'm going to tear you apart. I'm going to tear every single person in the divine realm into pieces." The snake-headed Beastman was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Yi Qinghan had actually concealed his strength and then put on a false front. In the end, Yi Qinghan had gone back on his word and smashed all his subordinates, except for Yao Ji, into pieces. 26 experts. Among them there were 3 9th grade Supremes. This was the majority of the peak experts of the Beastman plane. Other than those lower 9th grade commanders, there was also him, Foxgirl, and a 9th grade Supremes who had stayed behind. The peak experts of the Beastman plane had all died in the hands of Yi Qinghan alone. The snake-headed Beastman's body was trembling. His heart was bleeding, his balls were aching, and his soul was burning. At this moment there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to kill Yi Qinghan and obtain the supreme spiritual treasure. Otherwise he would never be able to face his ancestors in the Beastman plane. Divine crystals, they're all divine crystals. What a pity. I don't know if I can bring these divine crystals back to the divine realm. Yi Qinghan looked at the countless divine crystals floating up from the deep pit. They were like magnificent gems, so beautiful that it was dazzling. Moreover, there were 3 chaotic divine crystals among them. But there was not much joy in his heart. He just grabbed them randomly and put them all into the War Emperor Palace. He had used all his strength in that palm strike just now. His soul space had evolved and multiplied the power of the cold power. His intuition was right, his attack had doubled. The problem was, the power was too great. He did not believe that the divine emperor and supreme martial artist at the peak of Mount Pan would not notice it. If Pan Xing finds out, you're dead for sure. The purple-robed woman's words were still echoing in his ears, but Yi Qinghan had no time to think about whether Pan Xing was already preparing to attack him. At this moment, all he could think of was to kill the snake-headed Beastman and Foxy to save the Beast God and Xiao Hei's lives. Back then, Pan Xing had killed so many experts from the divine realm, but he did not take back the supreme spiritual treasure. Moreover, the purple-robed woman was also there, so it was very likely that she could save the Beast God and Xiao Hei's lives. While he was thinking, the snake-headed Beastman's attack had already arrived. The snake-headed Beastman had obviously gone crazy. He attacked with all his strength. The power of destruction revolved around his fists and he shot out black fist shadows. The sky was filled with fist shadows. At the same time, the black flag in his hand suddenly unfurled and expanded with the wind, turning into a 10,000-meter-long flag. It emitted a heart-palpitating aura, and it enveloped Yi Qinghan and himself. Supreme spiritual treasure? The power of the black fist shadows condensed by the power of destruction has increased by half? Yi Qinghan was shocked. When he saw the snake-headed Beastman using this flag to protect himself, he had originally thought that this supreme spiritual treasure was a defensive treasure. He did not expect it to be a support-type treasure. He quickly used his divine sense to explore the surroundings and he was even more shocked. The surrounding space had actually been frozen. In other words, he and the snake-headed Beastman could not move. They could only forcefully resist the attack of the black fist shadows. Goddammit. Come on. Let's die together. Amidst the sparks, Yi Qinghan immediately made a decision. He would perish together with the snake-headed Beastman. Since he could not escape, he would forcefully resist. He wanted to bet that he could kill the snake-headed Beastman before the energy in the Fire God battle armor was completely depleted. The Soul Destroyer released its full power, and the God Slayer spear whistled out, ignoring the attack of the fist shadows. It pierced through the gaps between the fist shadows, and went straight for the snake-headed beastman's triangular head. Die die die. The snake-headed beastman raised its head and howled. It completely ignored the attack of the golden soul threads, and it did not care about the God Slayer spear. He was also betting. He was betting that before Yi Qinghan killed him, the heaven and earth yuan qi stored in the Paragon's spiritual treasure would be completely depleted. He was betting that Yi Qinghan's body would not be able to withstand such a powerful attack, and he would be turned into powder. Terrifying fist shadows that could only cause cracks to appear in space, and with a force that could flatten mountains, they heavily smashed into Yi Qinghan's lower abdomen. Boom, boom, boom. Black fist shadows continuously smashed into Yi Qinghan's lower abdomen. Waves of earth-shaking energy penetrated his body, shaking his divine crystal, shaking his bones and shaking his internal organs. The fire god battle armor lit up with a dazzling red light, and it forcefully resisted the attack of the black fist shadows. Yi Qinghan's body was sealed by the Paragon's spiritual treasure with the black flag, and he could not move at all. Every time the black fist shadows attacked, his body would tremble and he would spit out a mouthful of blood. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan had already been hit by dozens of fist shadows. His entire body went limp and his lower abdomen bent like a shrimp. His face was as pale as snow. However, his gaze was still incomparably firm and bright. He grinned and spat out another mouthful of blood and he laughed sinisterly. He was. Die for this young master. Die die. Chapter 1358. No no. Impossible. Impossible. The snake-headed half-beast man's crazed howl resounded through the clouds and shook the surroundings. However, regardless of whether he believed it or not, Yi Qinghan had withstood such a terrifying attack. As for Yi Qinghan's attack, he felt that he could not block it at all. The power of God Slayer's spear was twice as strong as his attack. Moreover, it was spinning crazily, easily breaking through the origin energy on the surface of his body. He could already feel a bone-piercing chill coming from his head. He knew very well that even with the protection of the chaotic energy, his sea of soul would immediately collapse after being hit by such a powerful force. He knew that he was finished. Boom. His triangular head exploded. At the moment when his soul dissipated, there was still a doubt in his mind. Under such a powerful attack, even with the protection of the fire god's armor, Yi Qinghan's divine crystal should have been damaged. Once a crack appeared on the divine crystal, the vast amount of energy inside would definitely rush out and cause his body to explode. But why was he not injured at all? This did not make sense. This was very illogical. Although Yi Qinghan's face and body were covered in blood and his body was bent like an earthworm, he did not seem to have suffered any serious injuries. He elegantly grabbed the snake-headed half-beast man's divine crystal and the supreme spiritual treasure black flag, and slowly descended. He suddenly stood up and turned his back to the terrified fox lady. He said coldly, "Seeing that you didn't hurt my ancestor, I'll spare your life today. Take your beastman army and scram back to the stronghold. If I meet you again in the planar battlefield, I'll kill you without mercy." What? Foxy looked at the proud figure in confusion, and the side of his face that looked as if it had been carved by a knife. He could not believe it. Yi Qinghan actually let her go? How could something as bizarre as this happen in the planar battlefield? Even if they were not enemies, she had a 9th-grade supreme divine crystal in her body. "Thank you, Emperor Hanyi. Thank you, Emperor Hanyi. Foxy promises that I will never be an enemy of the divine realm." Although Foxy's mind was almost in a mess, she did not hesitate at all. He immediately knelt down and kowtowed to Yi Qinghan a few times. Then he turned into a blur and shot away. When Foxy disappeared into the white fog, the cold smile on Yi Qinghan's face slowly disappeared. The muscles on his face slowly twisted and his body started to curl up bit by bit. Finally, he fell to the ground with a loud bang and rolled around in pain. The snake-headed beastman's judgment was correct. Under the enhancement of the supreme spiritual treasure black flag, his destructive power had increased by 1.5 times. Under his all-out attack, although the fire god battle armor protected Yi Qinghan's body, the layers of power still penetrated Yi Qinghan's divine crystal, cracked. But the snake-headed beastman's guess was wrong. Yi Qinghan's divine crystal was empty. There was nothing inside, not even a bit of divine power. Because he had comprehended the path of supremacy, he had been given a small amount of chaotic power. At this moment, it was circulating in his brain to protect it. So although Yi Qinghan's divine crystal had cracked, he did not explode because of the large amount of divine power that rushed out. The divine crystal was the foundation of a martial artist. When the divine realm exploded, the martial artist died. Back in the sealed God Valley, Yi Yao Rao's divine crystal had cracked and she had been unconscious for many years. Although the soul ring could instantly heal all injuries, it did not include the ability to instantly repair divine crystals. There was no doubt that the soul ring could repair divine crystals. However, there were countless small cracks on Yi Qinghan's divine crystal. To completely repair it, it would take time. Obviously, Yi Qinghan did not let Foxy go because he was soft-hearted. He simply did not have the ability to hurt her. Waves of intense pain came over him. If not for Yi Qinghan's strong willpower and strong nerves, he would have been rolling on the ground in pain. He was rolling on the ground in pain, and in the end he was easily killed by Foxy. Ha, old ancestor Xiaohe. This is all I can do. Whether you can live or not will depend on your luck. Xiaohe, the divine realm will depend on you in the future, my good brother. Although the intense pain made Yi Qinghan hover between life and death, he still endured it. He took out the slaughter god blade from the Battle Emperor Palace and smiled as he used his divine senses to look at the sleeping Xiaohe. Then he stabbed the slaughter god blade into the beast god's back and tied it up. At the same time, he placed all the treasures in the Battle Emperor Palace, including the many divine crystals that he had obtained this time, into an interspatial ring and threw it into the beast god's arms. Finally, he used all his strength and threw the beast god 10,000 miles away. Supreme God Emperor, come. This young master will wait for you to take my life. Ah, this young master has enjoyed everything in this life. I have had what I wanted and played with what I wanted. I have no regrets. I only hope that you will not bring harm to my family. Otherwise, this young master will not let you off even if I turn into a malicious spirit. Yi Qinghan's body rolled on the ground in pain. Although the muscles on his face were contorted, there was no pain in his eyes. Instead, they were hazy. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, but the expression on her face was so sweet. Oh, another wave of pain came. Throwing the beast deity out made the injuries in his divine crystal even more severe. He knew that he could not hold on any longer and was about to faint. His eyes became even more hazy. In a daze, he seemed to see Yi Qingyu's pure and flawless face. The peach blossom on Yu Qingqing's head, Yin Ling's alluring figure, fireworks' beautiful face. Finally, he saw a black longsword piercing through the air, bringing with it a sharp killing intent. He closed his eyes and sighed helplessly. Pan Xing's attack had come. Panjie, farewell. In the last moment he did not think about anything. He did not worry about anything. He did not care about the God Realm's survival or the lives of everyone. He had done all he could. All he could do was rest. He was too tired. This world had brought him many good things. Glory, power, beautiful women, treasures. But it had also brought him endless pressure and worry. At this moment he finally felt completely free. In fact, a black longsword really did fly towards his head. However, it was not Pan Xing's. It was Foxy's. Foxy stood thousands of miles away in fear. She used the power of destruction to create a black longsword that hovered above Yi Qinghan's head. However, she did not slash down. Yi Qinghan uncharacteristically let her go. Although she did not understand why, she did not hesitate to run away. However, after running for millions of miles, she felt that something was wrong. Yi Qinghan was not a soft-hearted person. As the ruler of a plane, was it possible that his hands were stained with the blood of billions of lives? There must be something wrong with things that were abnormal. Therefore, she turned around and quietly ran over. In the end, she saw Yi Qinghan rolling on the ground. He was motionless and seemed to have fainted. At that moment, Foxy did not hesitate. She created a black longsword and slashed it at Yi Qinghan. However, when she was about to slash down, he hesitated. She was not a soft-hearted person. She would not feel grateful just because Yi Qinghan let her go. But at this moment she felt a throbbing in the depths of her soul. It was as if she would be torn to pieces if she moved. She felt an aura lock onto her. The meaning of that aura was very clear. If she moved, she would die immediately. who had such terrifying power that she, a ninth-grade supreme martial artist, did not even dare to move with just a trace of aura. Foxy did not know. However, after thinking about it, she felt that other than the one at the peak of Mount Pan, no other martial artist could reach such a terrifying level. The next second, she got her answer. However, this answer made her even more confused. A young man in white walked slowly from afar. He was carrying a skinny old man that she was very familiar with. In his hand was a 2-meter-long black longsword. His face was cold and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. It almost caused the destructive power that Foxy had gathered to collapse. The young man did not look at Foxy. Instead, he stared at Yi Qinghan's pale face. His face was filled with pain and guilt. He walked step by step towards Yi Qinghan. His steps were slow. However, in the blink of an eye, he was beside Yi Qinghan. The youth ignored the black longsword that was hovering above their heads and condensed from the powerful destruction power. Thump! He knelt down and reached out a trembling hand to caress Yi Qinghan's face. Then he said in a trembling voice, "Boss, you have suffered. Zhou Xian is back." Chapter 1359. The battle in the Scarlet Gobi Desert became even more intense. One man and one beast were like unkillable cockroaches. The more they fought, the braver they became. Hundreds of thousands of warriors and demonic beasts were torn apart by the aftermath of their battle. Of course, this was related to the mysterious atmosphere in the Scarlet Gobi Desert. There seemed to be a magical power in the Scarlet Gobi Desert. Warriors here would become impulsive and bloodthirsty. Moreover, as they killed more people, their soul sea would automatically generate a murderous aura. In the end, they would be completely possessed and become killing machines. They would either kill everyone or be killed. There were more than 70 legions in the Scarlet Gobi Desert. Each legion had at least 1 million people. Some died in Demon Mountain, but at least hundreds of thousands of people. Powerful plains had millions of warriors. A small number of restrictions in the Scarlet Gobi Desert had been raised by the surging energy of the warriors. Hundreds of millions of experts from various planes had gathered here just to win, to not be attacked by other planes, or to obtain the qualification to attack other planes, and to obtain the treasures of heaven and earth, supreme spiritual treasures. Blood had already gathered into a river. Countless blood rivers converged into a blood-colored ocean. On the blood-colored ocean, white, blue, and black badges were everywhere. Like a lotus leaf on a pond, it swayed back and forth, blinding a group of people. But no one went to collect the badges. Here the badges had lost their effectiveness. There was no need to collect points in the Scarlet Gobi Desert and there was no time to collect them. Here the points were automatically recorded. You just had to fight to the death to kill. Here there were colorful divine crystals floating everywhere in the air, dazzling people's eyes. But other than the 9th grade divine crystals, no one went to collect the rest. Because even if you collected them, perhaps in the next second, your divine crystals and spatial ring would float out of your body and continue to sway in the air. There were corpses everywhere. Humans, beastmen, demonic beasts, strange beasts, monsters, mantis men, metal men, aliens. All kinds, dazzling, and all kinds of smells, nauseating and chilling. This was a paradise for the strong. The strong could squander their powerful strength here, dictating the fate of others. This was also a hell for the strong, the final destination, the graveyard. Ayo. After a long time. Finally, that incomparably terrifying battle between man and beast ended with the sorrowful howl of the magical beast. In the end, the beast-man brandished his iron fist and smashed the 1,000-meter-tall magical beast into a pile of minced meat. However, he was also heavily injured. He fell to the ground powerlessly, causing the ground to shake and crushing the broken limbs below him. Blood splattered everywhere from the impact of the blood-red ocean, dyeing the eyes of the gigantic demonic beast that had died with everlasting regret. Woo! Countless experts of the magical beast race charged at the beastman the moment he landed. Their sharp blue claws were like the scythes of the Grim Reaper. The orcs had killed their king, so they could only use their own lives to avenge their king. A long time passed. The beastmen, who were so powerful that they made people's hearts palpitate, were also turned into a pile of minced meat under the onslaught of the magical beasts, floating on the blood-red sea. His 7-colored 9th grade sovereign divine crystal had once again caused the nearby legions to engage in a slaughter and battle. Blood was still flowing, the battle was still ongoing, and the experts were still slowly walking into their graves. Hmm. Could it really be them? Besides this man and beast, who else could be so powerful? But this man and beast are both dead. There's no way to find out. Pan Xing, who was at the peak of Mount Pan, had also finished watching the show. Although this man and beast had the strength of a 9th-grade supreme martial artist, he was still hesitant, unsure if they were the ones who had broken through the barrier of Pan realm. After pondering for a while, Pan Xing still couldn't find an answer. In the end, he seemed to have thought of something and suddenly looked towards the divine realm. Another 9th-grade supreme martial artist. This young man in white is so powerful. He actually killed a 9th-grade supreme martial artist with one move? Why are the 9th-grade supreme martial artists of the Beastmen Plane all dead? Could it be that they all died in the hands of this young man? This young man. Why does he seem so familiar to me? When Pan Xing's gaze swept over, the young man in white also made his move. His body turned into a blue dragon that was tens of thousands of meters long, slowly flying towards Foxy. Then with a swing of the dragon's tail, Foxy was sucked into it. With a flash of green light, Foxy's body instantly turned into dust, corroded and devoured at a speed visible to the naked eye. What was extremely strange was that from the beginning to the end, Foxy's body didn't move at all. She didn't escape, didn't resist, didn't even let out a scream. After killing a 9th-grade supreme martial artist so easily, the young man in white didn't have a hint of complacency on his face. In fact, his expression didn't even change a bit. He continued to carry the skinny old man on his back, bent down to carry Yi Qinghan, and walked into the distance. Blue dragon? Devoured? I was wondering why this young man looked so familiar. So he's the abnormality that was formed from the supreme slaughtering god saber. Previously, when someone broke through the barrier of Pan realm, he wasn't this powerful, so it's not him. It's considered normal for an abnormality born from the supreme slaughtering god saber to have such strength. Pan Xing's eyes revealed an as expected expression, but he didn't care. He looked around the plain battlefield, but he didn't find any other powerful martial artists. He couldn't help but think back to the battle between the man and the beast, trying to analyze who the person was that broke through the barrier of Pan realm. As expected. He's definitely the next candidate for the position of Divine Emperor. In the small wooden house on the left, Pan Xi's face was full of joy, like a little girl who had done a good deed. Her watery eyes were sparkling, so beautiful that it was dazzling. He didn't die even after all this. This must be fate. Pan Huang really predicted everything. He must have predicted that I would make a move. Pan Xi blinked her eyes and smiled as she murmured. After a while, she frowned doubtfully and sighed. It's just that. I've already made a move. Why isn't my heart calmed down? Could it be that my heart tribulation is not over yet? Pan Xi shook her head and didn't speak anymore. She frowned slightly, tilted her head and started to ponder. 2 days. It'll be 1 month and 2 days. There are still 2 more days. Emperor, you have to hold on. Within a dense forest of the plain battlefield, 1,000,000 Yi family troops were like a giant beast that laid there silently. Gong Tian and the other 4 were hiding around and scouting the situation. Wind Moon Monarch continued to lay out restrictions. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen stood on an old tree and looked into the distance. They looked towards the direction of the God World stronghold.